Chapter 631. In SO, it's not a big deal to challenge a monster above your level. As long as you're a strong player, you'll usually challenge a monster above your level. Because of this, you'll get more experience, money and items. However, it's a big deal to challenge a monster above your level. A monster boss and a normal monster were on two completely different levels. For example, a level 50 monster might be as strong as a level 45 player, but a level 50 monster boss would require a player at least 10 levels above it to be able to solo it. And that's only if you're at the level of Kirito and Asuna. You can imagine how big the gap is between a monster boss and a normal monster. Even a normal boss was like this, let alone a guardian boss that only had one guardian boss on each floor. Challenging a guardian boss that was of a higher level than the guardian boss was an act of suicide. Even Wu Yan's level is higher than the floor boss when he challenged the floor boss alone. Because of this, Wu Yan dared to challenge the floor boss directly. If he's at the same level as the floor boss, Wu Yan would still dare to challenge the floor boss alone, but he wouldn't dare to do so. With the strength of a floor boss, even if he challenged a floor boss of the same level, it's still a suicidal act. There are only a few people who can do it. Wu Yan is one of them and the future Kirito is also one of them. This is why Wu Yan is the idol of many players. Although the floor boss in front of him isn't a floor boss, it's still not a normal monster. However, Wu Yan has done a lot of solo floor bosses, and he's also challenged monsters above his level. Although the Lion Beastman boss level is higher than him, it's not that much higher. Wu Yan is confident that he can take on such a floor boss alone. Of course, even if he's confident, he still has to be vigilant. Wu Yan already knew about the Beast King's incident. Even if he's confident, he can't let his guard down. Otherwise, it'll only lead to tragedy. Therefore, the closer he got to the Lion Beastman boss, the lighter Wu Yan's footsteps became. Towards the end, he couldn't hear his footsteps at all. Trying his best to keep his footsteps as light as possible, he inched closer and closer to the Lion Man boss. Finally, when he was about 10 meters away from the Lion Beastman boss, the Lion Beastman woke up from its slumber. A pair of golden lion eyes opened and it shifted its gaze onto Wu Yan. Before he could get up from his prone position, the Lion Man boss kicked off the ground and pounced at Wu Yan, closing the distance between him and Wu Yan to within 5 meters. Roar! The Lion Beastman boss leaped high into the air as if it had grown a pair of wings. It pounced towards Wu Yan. Its incomparably sharp claws reflected a cold golden light under the dim light of the forest. With a slight whistling sound, it charged straight for Wu Yan's face. The Lion Beastman boss's pounce wasn't as simple as a normal pounce. It was a skill. Not only did it have an extremely high attack power, but its pounce speed was also incomparably fast. Its huge body also carried a suppressive aura as it pounced forward, causing people to tremble from the bottom of their hearts and even forget to dodge. It's like a person standing in the middle of the road. If a car were to crash into him, he would be so flustered that he wouldn't know how to move. Of course, those with extremely strong mental fortitude were exceptions. Wu Yan was clearly such a person. Originally, to defeat a monster, normal players of the same level could form a team of 2 or 3 people. But to defeat a Lion Beastman boss, even elite players of the same level would need at least 5 people of the same level. With excellent coordination, it would take a relatively long time to complete the task. A Lion Beastman boss had extremely high defense, frightening attack power, and even terrifying skills. A Lion Beastman boss was terrifying enough to rival dozens of normal monsters of the same level. At the current stage, perhaps only Wu Yan could solo a Lion Beastman boss. The Lion Beastman boss's pounce was very frightening. When the Lion Beastman boss left the ground, Wu Yan also instantly moved. His originally slow and light footsteps quickly landed. He quickly took 2 steps forward and arrived in front of the Lion Beastman boss. He then moved to the side, just barely dodging the Lion Beastman boss's pounce. Immediately after, a crushing blow came crashing down in the direction of the Lion Man boss, as if it was a wave of water. Bang! The heavenly gazer directly landed on the Lion Beastman boss's body, causing a cracking sound. The Lion Beastman boss's body had just landed on the ground when the crushing blow came from behind and was sent flying back nearly 2 meters. Because the Lion Beastman boss's body had not yet stabilized when it landed, the crushing blow actually caused the Lion Beastman boss to stagger and fall to the ground. The top bar of the Lion Beastman boss's HP bar had decreased by about 10%. With Wu Yan's attack power and skills, he could only deal 1% damage to the Lion Beastman boss. With this kind of defense and HP, it would be very difficult to find a player who could break through the Lion Beastman boss's defense at the current stage of the game. Even players of the same level could only deal limited damage to it. Glancing at the Lion Beastman boss's HP bar, Wu Yan clicked his tongue. Taking advantage of the Lion Beastman boss's fall, he quickly rushed forward and used 2 crushing blows on the Lion Beastman boss before it could get back up. Once again, the Lion Beastman boss lost another 25% of its HP. Wu Yan then turned around and retreated. The Lion Beastman boss seemed to only have one skill, Pounce. After it got back up, it immediately used Pounce again. Even though it had the body of a human, it attacked like a wild beast. This made Wu Yan suspicious, but at the same time he was also secretly on guard. With small, quick steps he dodged the Lion Beastman boss's pounce. The 3 consecutive pounce attacks were all perfectly dodged by Wu Yan. In terms of speed, Wu Yan was definitely faster than the Lion Beastman boss. However, in terms of agility, Wu Yan couldn't compare to the Lion Beastman boss. Therefore, Wu Yan only moved within a small area and used infinite martial refining to completely dodge the Lion Beastman boss's pounce. Then he quickly pulled away from the Lion Beastman boss. Wu Yan's figure was like a constantly twisting wind, constantly swaying in front of the Lion Beastman boss. Every time the Lion Beastman boss would almost pounce on him. Even the spectating moonlit black cats broke out in a cold sweat for Wu Yan. But soon the Lion Beastman boss's pounce would become a blur in front of their eyes. Every time the Lion Beastman boss's pounce would only miss by a tiny bit. If the Lion Beastman boss had intelligence, it would probably be angered to death. Wu Yan didn't know if the Lion Man boss had any intelligence. However, after the repeated failures of its pounce attacks, the Lion Man boss's eyes glowed with rage. Wu Yan's pupils constricted when he saw the Lion Man boss's eyes flickering with rage. Roar! After missing several times, the Lion Beastman boss finally stopped using pounce. Instead, it landed on the ground and stood up like a human. It stomped on the ground with its 2 feet and charged towards Wu Yan with a heavy pressure like a truck. Wu Yan's eyes flashed sharply. Just as the Lion Beastman boss was about to make a move, he stepped back slightly and smirked. Then he rashly rammed into the Lion Beastman boss's body. Ah! Seeing this scene, the members of the moonlit black cats cried out in alarm. Could it be that Wu Yan wanted to meet the Lion Beastman boss head-on? The distance between the man and the Lion Beastman boss was instantly shortened. Just as they were about to collide, Wu Yan suddenly tapped his foot and leaped high into the air. He did a low somersault and jumped over the Lion Beastman boss's huge body. Then he landed steadily on the ground. He didn't turn around to attack. Instead, he suddenly accelerated and ran towards the strange cave. Chapter 632. This sudden turn of events stunned everyone in the moonlit black cats. They looked at Wu Yan, who was running towards the cave, then at the Lion Man boss. Ayo! After another missed attack, the Lion Man boss let out a furious roar. Its eyes seemed to be on fire as it glared at Wu Yan running towards the cave, then it quickly turned around and chased after him. However, it was clear that the Lion Man boss's movement speed was inferior to Wu Yan's. Although it quickly closed the distance between Wu Yan, it only took a short while for Wu Yan to widen the gap again. In an instant, the distance between the two was more than 10 meters. Seeing this, the moonlit black cats didn't express any joy. Instead, they all looked anxious, as if they couldn't wait for Wu Yan to pull away from the Lion Man boss. Of course, that wasn't the reason, but the direction Wu Yan was running towards was a dead end. If this continued, the Lion Man boss would catch up to him sooner or later. Moreover, he would be forced into a dead end, which was very disadvantageous for him. Big brother. Sachi couldn't help but call out, wanting to warn Wu Yan, but Suda immediately stopped her. Sachi, don't worry, there's no way he doesn't know there's a dead end in front of him. Since he knows and is still running in that direction, he must have his own plans. Let's just stay here and watch. But... Sachi looked at Wu Yan worriedly, then at Suta before finally retreating. In the battlefield ahead, Wu Yan finally reached the cave's stone wall. Facing a tall stone wall, he couldn't advance any further. Behind him was the Lion Man boss's charge. The members of Moonlit Black Cats raised their guard as they looked at the Lion Man boss charging towards Wu Yan. Wu Yan stood motionless at the base of the stone wall. A drop of sweat trickled down their cheeks. The Lion Man boss fiercely charged towards Wu Yan in front of the stone wall. Wu Yan didn't turn around. Feeling the wind behind him, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a sly smile. In the next moment, the Lion Man boss brazenly charged forward, instantly closing in on Wu Yan. Wu Yan finally made his move. His body suddenly leapt into the air just like before. He did a low somersault and arrived on top of the Lion Man boss's head. When his body reached the highest point, he lightly tapped on the stone wall and somersaulted over the Lion Man boss's body. The Lion Man boss was charging towards the stone wall. Boom! Following a loud explosion, the Lion Man boss heavily slammed into the stone wall. The huge impact caused the stone wall to tremble, and the Lion Man boss was sent flying backwards, lying on the ground. Behind the Lion Man boss was standing Wu Yan. Wielding the heavenly gazer, Wu Yan rushed forward, the light of a skill flashing as he activated Crushing Blow. The Lion Man boss was stunned and couldn't get up for a while. The Lion Man boss's attack power was very high, terrifyingly high. Even with Wu Yan's current HP and defense, if he was hit by the Lion Man boss, his HP would drop by at least half. But at the same time, because of the high attack power, the reaction force was also very strong. When the Lion Man boss slammed into the stone wall, it was equivalent to slamming itself. Before Wu Yan attacked, the Lion Man boss's HP had dropped by a lot. Moreover, it still couldn't get up from the ground. With such a good opportunity to attack, Wu Yan naturally wouldn't let it go. He continuously used Crushing Blow, greeting the Lion Man boss's HP again and again, reducing the Lion Man boss's HP by 2/3. As for himself, his HP was still full. Up until now, the Lion Man boss hadn't even touched the corner of his clothes. Therefore, the moonlit black cat's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when they saw a player with full health whipping a boss that was even higher leveled than him and lying on the ground like an idiot. The moonlit black cat's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. That's amazing. Shireen couldn't find any other words to describe her feelings. Amazing. Suda was speechless. Using such a method to knock out a Lion Man boss and stun it, that's amazing. Now I believe he can solo a Lion Man boss. Xian said excitedly. Let's finish it off quickly. It's a Lion Man boss, I'm sure it'll drop some good stuff, right? Although Moonlit Black Cats is a guild, there are only 6 of them in the guild. Their strength and level aren't that high. During their 1 month in SAO, they didn't even have the chance to fight a Lion Man boss, let alone a Lion Man boss. If it weren't for the fact that they are helping Wu Yan deal with things that he doesn't have the time to deal with, getting some benefits from it and occasionally trading for some good equipment, the Moonlit Black Cats would at best be a third-rate force. Even now they are just a second-rate force. Now that a Lion Man boss is about to be taken down in front of them, the members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but feel excited. It's as if they're the ones taking down the Lion Man boss. Roar. The Lion Man boss roared at the sky and finally recovered from the stun. Wu Yan paused for a moment, then continued to bombard the Lion Man boss with Crushing Blow. His attack power didn't decrease at all, but the Lion Man boss's HP dropped a lot. After the Lion Man boss roared, its HP dropped to red due to Wu Yan's continuous bombardment. It's only 1 step away from being turned into a pile of experience points. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they saw the red HP bar. They didn't even dare to look away from the Lion Man boss, afraid that they might miss something. Because the Lion Man boss will most likely go berserk after its HP drops to red, just like the first floor's boss. Sure enough, a very clear stream of air suddenly emitted from the Lion Man boss. It was like a volcanic eruption, causing the temperature of the surrounding air to rise. Careful. The members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but shout. Wu Yan's expression froze for a moment, but soon, a cold smile appeared on his face. 7 stars, with Wu Yan's body as the center, a gust of wind suddenly erupted. Wu Yan held Heavenly Gazer in his hand and spun at an extremely fast speed. The speed of his spin reached a terrifying level in an instant. Heavenly Gazer turned into a blur as Wu Yan spun, and in an instant, it slashed the Lion Man boss 7 times. The 7 attacks were completed at almost the same time. Wu Yan's rapidly spinning body quickly came to a stop under his control. At the same time, the Lion Man boss's roar came to an abrupt end. The last HP bar also slowly decreased until it completely disappeared. Borrowing the centrifugal force of his body's rotation, the Heavenly Gazer's attack was activated. His body spun 7 times in an instant, and the heavenly gazer slashed 7 times in a row. Under such a terrifying rotation speed, the Lion Man boss was extremely sullen. He didn't even have the chance to use his final trump card before his HP dropped to 0. His huge body collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud, letting out a loud thud. Bang! A sound like glass shattering resounded from the Lion Man boss's body. Under the ecstatic gazes of the moonlit black cats, the Lion Man boss's body that was at least twice as tall as Wu Yan instantly turned into fragments that filled the air. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The faces of the 6 members of the moonlit black cats flushed red, and their bodies trembled as if they were trying their best to hold back something. Immediately after, a cheer came out from the mouths of the 6 of them. Chapter 633. When the cheers spread across the empty field, there were even a few monster roars in the forest, as if responding to the moonlit black cats. For a moment the gloomy forest was filled with a little warmth. Wu Yan put the heaven gazer back on his back and shook his head as he looked at the happy moonlit black cats. For the moonlit black cats, killing a boss was something worth celebrating. However, for Wu Yan, this level of opponent was worthy of being called a game. They didn't even give him a sense of danger. If he could do this when he faced the Beast King, he would have celebrated. Yan, you're amazing. Xian jumped and was about to throw herself at Wu Yan when a hand reached out and pressed her face. I say, didn't you suspect that I relied on luck to beat the boss? Wu Yan shook his head in an amused manner. I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet. Xian didn't mind Wu Yan's rejection of her intimacy, her face was still full of joy. That's a boss. A boss that's higher level than you was defeated by you in just a few moves. The national idol's strength isn't just for show. There's no use trying to please me. Wu Yan rolled his eyes at Xian and looked at Sachi and Sita, who were also excited. He said helplessly, why are you all so excited? The reward for killing the boss is mine. We didn't form a party, so you guys didn't get anything. Is there a need to be like this? Wu Yan's words didn't dampen the excitement of the moonlit black cats. In fact, they got even more excited. Sachi stepped forward and she continued with a smile. We didn't get any rewards for killing the boss, but after the mission was completed, we all got rewards. Not only did we get EXP money, we also got some equipment and items. Wu Yan flinched. He noticed that other than the reward for killing the boss, the previous mission also notified him that he had completed it. It even automatically submitted the completed mission and gave him a reward. Missions that don't need to be submitted? That's not bad either. At least I don't have to run around. The experience reward is pretty good too. Saves me a whole day of leveling up. The money is just so. Hearing this, the members of the moonlit black cats looked at each other with strange expressions, and their gazes towards Wu Yan became unfriendly. After all, the EXP reward saved Wu Yan a day of leveling, which was equivalent to a week for them. The so-called sloppy EXP reward was probably equivalent to a week's worth of hard work. Comparing oneself to others, one would be angered to death. Shireen opened her personal list and looked at her gains with interest. Then she said coldly, you're right, Shireen. By the way, how are we going to go back? The scene suddenly fell silent. Shireen's hand paused in the middle of scrolling through the list. She stole a glance at everyone, and when she saw their stiff faces, the corner of her mouth twitched. Don't tell me, you don't know. Everyone nodded in tacit understanding and stopped talking. The scene fell into a strange silence. Wu Yan blinked his lips as if he wanted to say something to cheer them up. But in the end he gave up and could only helplessly look away. As he looked away, he saw the cave where the boss was lying in. He was startled for a moment before his eyes lit up. Why don't we take a look inside the cave? Cave. The moonlit black cats collectively turned to look at the cave. Sachi tilted her head and said, speaking of which, why is the boss at the entrance of the cave and not inside? Hearing Sachi's words, everyone immediately perked up. If something was out of the ordinary, then there must be a demon behind it. No one would like to sleep in the open air. If they didn't sleep in a cave, then there must be something inside the cave. Wu Yan looked at the cave in front of him and rubbed his chin. It seems that if we want to leave this place, we can only place our hopes in this cave. Indeed, this forest was not very big. Although it was called a forest, it was actually more like a forest. Along the way, the group of 7 merely followed the path and arrived at this mountain cave. Around the mountain cave, other than the path that they had taken at the beginning, the other 3 directions were all stone walls. Clearly this cave is the end of the map. Let's go in and take a look. Seeing everyone's hesitation, Wu Yan immediately made a decision. He took the lead and walked towards the cave. The moonlit black cats had no choice but to follow. Originally, the moonlit black cats thought that there would be some other strange things in the cave. After all, they had already experienced the maze, the forest, the legless civet cat and the lion man boss, so they were especially vigilant when walking. What they didn't expect was that the cave wasn't that big. Less than 30 seconds after they entered the cave, the end of the cave appeared in front of them. The 7 of them stopped in their tracks and looked ahead. There was a strange look in their eyes. Because at the end of the cave there was a thin crystal and a small ball floating in the air. What's that? Xian blinked and looked at the 2 items floating in the air. She was about to walk up to them when she stopped and looked at Wu Yan. You go. Me. Wu Yan looked at Xian with surprise. Are you scared? Scared. Who's scared? Xian pouted in dissatisfaction. Those things are obviously some kind of item. Perhaps these are the true rewards of this unique quest. Since you were the one who killed the boss, we wouldn't have been able to complete this quest without you. Naturally, you should be the one to receive the rewards. Xian turned to Sutta and said mischievously, Isn't that right, President? Sutta was amused by Xian's mischievous look. He smiled and nodded solemnly. Yes. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to complete this mission. These rewards should be yours. But... Wu Yan frowned. The one who accepted the mission is Sachi, not me. Big brother, just take it. Sachi chuckled. The mission reward is already a big reward for us. We didn't help much this time, it was you who helped us, so don't reject it. Wu Yan looked around at the moonlit black cats. He didn't see any dissatisfaction on their faces, so he slowly nodded. Okay. The members of the moonlit black cats tapped on the air, and a trading window appeared in front of them. There were some precious items and a lot of Seor coins on it. These are for you. Wu Yan smiled. He didn't give them a chance to speak and said overbearingly. If you refuse, then don't blame me for refusing. The 6 members of the moonlit black cats were speechless. They could only confirm it a little, but there was a slight smile on their faces. In this world of Sao, in order to survive, humans basically don't hide their ugly side. Greed, jealousy, resentment. It can be said that for some good items and equipment, some people would even betray their companions just to have more chips to survive. Things like this, where people didn't fight for the things that were really precious, instead they pushed each other away and gave in to each other. It was really rare in this dog-eat-dog world. One has to say this kind of scene is a genuine exchange of hearts. That's why the moonlit black cats are very happy. At least they know that Wu Yan didn't treat them as mere passers-by. Wu Yan walked in front of the crystal and the orb. He stopped and grabbed the crystal. He checked the information on the crystal. Wu Yan flinched when he saw the information. Then he became ecstatic. Chapter 634. As someone who came from another world and possesses unimaginable power, there are many things in Sao that Wu Yan doesn't care about at all. For example, although equipment is powerful in Wu Yan's eyes, it's just something that can restore some of his combat power in the real world. As for items, no matter how magical they are, they can't compare to the items in the system. As for money, it's just a bunch of numbers. Therefore, in the eyes of others, everything Wu Yan got in Sao for a month is undoubtedly envied by other players, but in Wu Yan's eyes it's nothing. In other words, Wu Yan's vision is extraordinarily high. The members of Moonlit Black Cats also know that Wu Yan's vision is very high, but they don't know the reason. They thought it's because he's an expert, but in any case Wu Yan's vision is indeed very high, at least in Sao. Now this small piece of crystal made Wu Yan, who has always had high standards and never showed any change in expression when he received something, to reveal a pleasantly surprised expression. It's not hard to imagine that this thing is not some kind of incomparably precious item, or it's just the right item for the person in question. Therefore, seeing Wu Yan's reaction, the members of Moonlit Black Cats couldn't help but feel a little curious. Xian, who has the least patience and curiosity, was the first to ask. Yan, what is that? Hearing Xian's question, Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. He raised the crystal in his hand, and the next moment the crystal suddenly changed. A shadow flashed across the surface of the crystal, and then a small person with 2 pairs of wings and the size of a palm emerged from the crystal. Under everyone's gaze, the little person moved, flapped the 2 pairs of wings on her back, then flew out of the crystal, turned in midair and landed on Wu Yan's shoulder. At this time, Everyone could see the full appearance of the little person clearly. Her body was like a girl with a perfect figure, but her whole body was in the shape of light as if she was covered by a layer of light. One could faintly see her naked body. Her face was also not very clear, but it gave people a feeling that she was definitely not ordinary. She's just like the legendary elves. What is this? 6 pairs of eyes suddenly gathered in front of the elves, staring at her with curiosity. Sachi and Xian even showed a loving expression. They seemed to like this little elves very much. Wu Yan also curiously touched the elves on his shoulder, but it's a pity that the elves didn't respond to Wu Yan's touch at all. She didn't move at all under the gaze of so many people, and she just stayed motionless on Wu Yan's shoulder. Those who didn't know better would think that she's just a decoration. But Wu Yan knew that this elves didn't have any intelligence, just like a puppet, so naturally she wouldn't respond to other people's actions. What is this? Xian couldn't wait to ask. She put her hands together and put them in front of her chest, showing a loving expression. She's so beautiful, so cute. Hearing this, Wu Yan smiled and said, she's a tamed demon. Tamed demon? Everyone was stunned. Yes, tamed demon. Wu Yan weighed the crystal in his hand. This is a tamed demon crystal. As the name suggests, the player who owns it will obtain a tamed demon, and this elves is the tamed demon in the tamed demon crystal. Tamed demon. Xian stared at the elves on Wu Yan's shoulder. She said with some regret, I shouldn't have let you have it. Wu Yan rolled his eyes and ignored Xian. He knew that Xian didn't covet the tamed demon's convenience. She just thought that the elves are cute, just like a doll. Wu Yan turned his head and glanced at the elves on his shoulder. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a satisfied smile. In a zoo, tamed demons aren't cheap pets like in other online games. Tamed demons are very precious. If a player is unlucky, they won't even get a tamed demon because tamed demons are very important in SAO. Some tamed demons could help players fight, some could buff players, and some could restore players' HP. In this world where one could die at any time, having the help of a tamed demon would be a huge help. Perhaps the players could not even compare to those tamed demons. Because of this, once a player has a tamed demon, that player will be called a tamed tamer. It's a very precious class. Of course, there were good and bad tamed monsters. Some tamed monsters were more useful than players. Naturally, there were also some tamed monsters that were less useful than players. Therefore, to have a tamed monster, one needed luck. To have a powerful tamed monster, one needed even more luck. It has to be said that Wu Yan's luck is really good. Let's not talk about the fact that there might not even be a tamed demon in SO's second floor yet. This elven sprite is quite useful. This elven sprite is a healing tamed demon. When its master is fighting, it can't help each other, but it can restore players' HP. With such a healing fairy, not only would he be able to save a lot of precious recovery tools, but he would also be able to extend the duration of his battle. Could even save his life during crucial moments. To players, such a healing fairy would be extremely helpful. Not to mention Wu Yan's healing fairy is OP. It can restore 20% of its master's HP every minute. In other words, even if the elven sprite only has 1 HP left, it can be restored to full in 5 minutes, and there's no need to waste recovery items. If other players want to restore their HP to full, they have to sit for at least half a day. Moreover, if the enemy that Wu Yan is fighting against can't deal more than 20% of Wu Yan's HP in 1 minute, then no matter how strong they are, they can only be prepared to be killed by Wu Yan. With the healing fairy, Wu Yan's combat power didn't change, and his actual strength didn't change either. However, his overall strength has increased by at least 10 times. Wu Yan is already as strong as a Yuji, and with the help of the healing fairy, he's equivalent to half an immortal super player. In the future, he will definitely become a nightmare in the eyes of his enemies. Seems that there's no need to go out in the wild anymore. With the healing fairy, he might as well go straight to the labyrinth area. After making up his mind, Wu Yan looked at the orb again, carefully checked its information, and then smiled. Equipping the healing fairy crystal on his accessory bar is one of the effects of this tamed magic crystal. In the future, he can summon the healing fairy with just a thought. Then another crystal appeared in Wu Yan's hand, but this wasn't the tamed magic crystal, but the transfer crystal that transported Wu Yan and the others here. In the void, the floating orb suddenly swayed, and with a rise and fall, it suddenly flew towards the transfer crystal and fused with it. Almost at the same time, Wu Yan discovered that the transfer crystal can be used again. We can finally leave this place. Knowing that the teleportation crystal could be used, the members of the Moonlit Black Cats were overjoyed. Even Sachi couldn't help but smile. Although the mission this time had brought them a lot of benefits, the environment was just too bad and it felt like torture. If possible, they didn't want to stay here any longer. It's a pity that it can only be used once, if only it could be used forever. Wu Yan said with some regret, this kind of mass transfer crystal's effect might be surprisingly good. Wu Yan didn't leave immediately. He looked at the Moonlit Black Cats with a grin. Since we're here, we might as well clear this forest once. Thus, the monsters in the forest welcomed the most inhumane day. Chapter 635. Aincrad, second floor, inside a certain hotel. Many players chatted with each other, drinking and eating extravagantly from the hotel's food. Their voices filled the entire hotel, making it seem like a bar in the real world. The topics these people were discussing were either about which guild was doing pioneering work in the wilderness, which team, or which player was lucky enough to obtain a precious item or equipment. While they were talking, their voices carried traces of envy and anger. It was obvious that they did not have a good impression of the people they were talking about. Of course, the strength of a guild was generally stronger than that of an individual or a group. It was fine for guilds with a small number of members. But now, the strength of individual guilds had developed to a certain extent and they had a large number of members. In order to improve the strength of the guild, the most important thing was to prepare for guild activities and explore new territories. These are things that need to be done through monsters or quest NPCs. As a result, the wild had basically been occupied by a few guilds. Using the excuse that no one was allowed to disturb the guild's activities, these guilds had circled some of the wild's leveling spots into their own leveling areas. This caused idle players, parties, and even weak guilds to be chased away as soon as they stepped out of the wild. Facing these guilds, the weaker players don't dare to voice their anger. They have no choice but to run back to town. Although this situation will improve in 2 or 3 days when the guilds move to higher-leveled areas, it's unavoidable for the players to be dissatisfied. This is what led to the current situation in the hotel. As for the players who were lucky enough to get good items and equipment, their reason for being dissatisfied is more direct. They're jealous and envious. Of course, it was a different story for some powerful players. Kirito, for example, had already skipped the leveling spots set up by the guilds and headed straight for the high-level monsters. Leveling up in such a place gave off the feeling of a master's boldness. While the players in the inn were venting their frustrations, a group of 7 people suddenly appeared at the location where Wu Yan and the Moonlit Black Cats disappeared from. The players in the inn jumped in fright when they saw this group of 7 people. They stood there in a daze with shock written all over their faces. It was not that they had never seen a teleportation crystal being used before, but generally the teleportation crystal was set at a certain location. For example, the teleportation crystal in this town was set at the side of the fountain on the 2nd floor. Anyone who used a teleportation crystal that could teleport to this town would be teleported there without exception. They had never heard of anyone using a teleportation crystal to teleport to a hotel. Could it be that something went wrong? Unlike the players who widened their eyes in shock, Wu Yan's group didn't have much of a change in expression. They even let out a sigh of relief when they saw that they're in a hotel. We're finally back. Xian stretched her back and waved weakly at Sachi. Sachi, don't randomly pick NPCs on the road. I don't want to do this kind of quest again. Hearing Xian's words, the players in the hotel suddenly understood. So it's because of the quest. Sachi lowered her head in embarrassment. I won't do it again. Don't listen to her nonsense. Wu Yan glared at Xian. So many people want a quest but can't find one. Now that there's one in front of you, you don't want it? Be careful of other players. It's better to be slapped to death than to die of boredom in that damned place. Xian snorted and lay down on the table. At this time, the players in the hotel finally noticed Wu Yan. Many of them cried out in surprise. Black coat, black greatsword, it's Wu Yan. What? Wu Yan? The Wu Yan who soloed the first floor's boss and cleared the stage? No way. It's really him? It's true. It's really him. There's no mistaking his attire. It doesn't make sense. Why would he appear here? Shouldn't a strong player like him be exploring the wilderness? Maybe he was forced to come back by those guilds. Bah. Those guilds want to force him back? He's someone who can solo a floor's boss. So what if he soloed a floor's boss? He's still one person, right? He can only retreat when faced with a large number of guilds. That's impossible. Those guilds can't wait to befriend such a strong player and recruit him into their guild. They won't offend him, that's true. When can I solo a floor's boss? Let's see if those guilds dare to be so arrogant. Let's think about how to beat the wild pheasants to critical health first. The topic that was originally directed at the guild was now directed at Wu Yan. The uproar from the surrounding resounded throughout the entire hotel, causing the group of 7 who just returned to the hotel to feel their heads swell up, giving them a headache. Looking at the people around him pointing at him, he frowned. Although these people no longer have the hatred and jealousy they had before, instead, there is some admiration in their eyes. However, he still felt uncomfortable. He felt like a monkey in a zoo being surrounded by people. I'm going back to my room. Wu Yan turned around and said to the moonlit black cats. Without waiting for their reply, he went up the stairs to the second floor. The moonlit black cats wanted to say something, but Wu Yan had already disappeared down the stairs. They could only shut their mouths. However, the surrounding players noticed them. Being able to be together with the person who currently has the chance to become the strongest player is enough to cause a lot of discussion. Under everyone's gaze and guidance, other than the timid Sachi, the rest of the moonlit black cats couldn't help but puff out their chests. They were still students in the real world. Being the center of attention was something to be proud of. Of course, it had to be in a good way. But because of this, the members of the moonlit black cats were targeted by someone else. Night in a certain room in the inn. Wu Yan changed into casual clothes and put away all of his equipment. He then laid down on the bed and ate the delicious food he made himself. He enjoyed this moment of silence. This is one of the benefits of the game. As long as you set the settings, you don't have to worry about anything. For example, the room in the inn looks like it's made of wood, but once the door is closed, all sounds outside will be isolated. There's no need to worry about the soundproofing. It's extremely convenient. However, some human-like sounds can be clearly heard, such as knocking on the door. 2 knocks came from the door, followed by Sachi's voice. Brother, are you there? Is it Sachi? Wu Yan stopped eating. Come in. With Wu Yan's permission, Sachi easily opened the door and walked in. To Wu Yan's surprise, Sachi had a very tired expression on her face, just like the exhausted Takitsubu Riku. Sachi, what's wrong? Wu Yan tilted his head in confusion. How did you end up like this? Sachi rolled her eyes at Wu Yan, something she rarely did. It's all because of you, brother. Because of me? That's right. Sachi said tiredly. Big brother, you're famous now. Many guilds and players want to meet you, but your friends list has already been set to not accept requests, so they can't do anything about it. But when they saw us together with you today, those who want to meet you came looking for us instead. Sachi looked like she was about to cry. Since this afternoon there have been a lot of friend requests coming to us. They want us to be their middleman so they can meet you. I'm fine, but the president is the one who's sad. His friend requests are coming faster than clicking. He's so tired that he's lying on the ground. Wu Yan was speechless. Chapter 636. Currently, Aincrad has only cleared the first floor. The players are still exploring the second floor. Seo has only been running for a month. It's a typical early stage of the game. In the early stages of the game, there aren't many players that can become famous. Even if there are, it's usually a guild or a strong party. So far, Wu Yan is the only player who can make a name for himself. For those who haven't seen the strength of a level boss, or even those who haven't even seen a wild boss, they wouldn't be able to understand how terrifying this feat is. Even if they know that Wu Yan is strong, they wouldn't be able to comprehend the extent of his strength. However, those who have come into contact with the boss and those who know how strong the boss is would know how terrifying Wu Yan is to be able to defeat the boss in a one-on-one duel. No matter what, once a player becomes famous, he's bound to be harassed. Wu Yan knew this would happen, that's why he rejected friend requests from strangers. So far, he only has 6 members of the Moonlit Black Cats in his friend list. Those who want to meet Wu Yan are disappointed. Similarly, the cloaked woman who wanted to add Wu Yan as a friend was rejected. Now that Wu Yan has his family and friends group, it's understandable that those who want to meet Wu Yan would try to befriend him through his family and friends group. Wu Yan smiled sheepishly as he scratched his cheeks in embarrassment. I'm sorry, Wu Yan asked in a puzzled tone. Then why don't you just reject their friend requests? Why do you have to spend so much effort to deal with them? It's the guild master's idea. Sachi explained to Wu Yan. The The guild master said that those who want to meet you are all big shots. They're either guild masters or powerful leaders. It's good for our guild's development to get in touch with them. Wu Yan immediately understood. He shook his head and laughed. In that case, you can't blame me for everything that happened to you. One of you was willing to be beaten and the other was willing to be beaten. You should thank me for giving you such an opportunity. But this is really tiring. Sachi yawned and rubbed her eyes. Then, big brother, do you want to meet them? I don't want it even if you beat me to death. Wu Yan hurriedly waved his hand and shook his head. What a joke. Just dealing with the friend requests was enough to tire Sachi out. If he had to meet them one by one, even if he had several lives, it would not be enough. Sachi seemed to know that this was impossible and couldn't help but feel pity. That's really a pity for those who personally came to the hotel to look for brother. They even came to the hotel? Wu Yan couldn't stay calm anymore. Then won't I be drowned by the crowd when I go out tomorrow? I won't. Sachi shook her head and said, it was supposed to be like this, but ever since a guild leader called Heathcliff came, those who surrounded the hotel were all chased away by his guild members. That's good. Wu Yan sighed in relief. Then I really have to thank Heathcliff. Wu Yan's tone suddenly stiffened. He turned his head and looked at Sachi. Sachi, who did you say? Say it again. That. Heathcliff. Sachi frowned her beautiful eyebrows. I heard that he's the leader of a new guild called Knights of the Blood. There aren't many members in the guild, but they are all elites. They're quite famous among all the guilds. The leader of Knights of the Blood, Heathcliff. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and smiled. That's interesting. Wu Yan stood up and walked towards the door. Sachi hurriedly shouted, Brother, where are you going? I'm going to meet that Heathcliff. Wu Yan's figure disappeared from the room as he spoke. Downstairs in the hotel, which was originally crowded with people, was now much less crowded than before. A group of players wearing white clothes with red edges surrounded the scene. They stood around as if they were guarding something. Occasionally, some of them would even chase away the players who tried to enter. They looked like royal guards full of style. Among these people, there was only one middle-aged man in his 30s to 40s. He was dressed in a red night suit and was sipping from a glass of wine on the table in a leisurely manner. Obviously, he was the leader of these people. He was none other than Heathcliff himself. Wu Yan noticed him as soon as he came down the stairs. Likewise, Heathcliff also noticed Wu Yan. When their eyes met, an invisible pressure spread throughout the room. The Knights of Blood noticed someone coming down from the second floor. They originally wanted to chase the person away out of habit, but when the pressure came out, all of them froze on the spot. Wu Yan glanced at everyone before he looked at Heathcliff. His eyes flashed with a subtle glint. Others might think that this person is just a powerful guild leader, but Wu Yan, who is familiar with the original game, knows that this person isn't Heathcliff. His real name is Kayaba Akihiko. That's right. Kayaba Akihiko. The one who created Kayaba Akihiko, the creator of the death game. Even Wu Yan couldn't help but be a little interested in this man who brought about a revolution to the world. Of course, it's just a little bit. Wu Yan has seen a lot of heaven-defying characters in the game, and Kayaba Akihiko is only at the bottom of the list. On the other hand, Kayaba Akihiko, whose game ID is Heathcliff, was also observing the person standing on the stairs. This so-called person might be the strongest player in the game, and his eyes flashed with a strong interest. Heathcliff could feel that his subordinates were shocked by this person, which surprised him a little. After all, his subordinates have seen a lot of powerful people, and yet they still reacted like this. This is enough to prove that Wu Yan is not an ordinary person. Heathcliff raised his head and opened his mouth, but when he was about to say something, he was stunned. Because the person in front of him turned around and went back upstairs. Seeing that Wu Yan was about to disappear at the top of the stairs, Heathcliff quickly said, Please wait for a moment. Wu Yan stopped and said, What's the matter? Heathcliff choked when he heard Wu Yan's indifferent tone. He frowned a little. This was the first time he was treated like a passerby by someone. Your Excellency. Heathcliff raised the cup in his hand and smiled politely. Since you're here, why don't you have a drink with me? No need. Wu Yan slowly shook his head. I'm just here to see what kind of person has the ability to chase away those annoying fellows. Oh? Heathcliff nodded nonchalantly and said, Then did I disappoint your Excellency? Disappoint? Wu Yan smirked and looked at Heathcliff meaningfully. He then looked at the members of Knights of the Blood. We'll talk about this again when you've brought your guild to the top of SAO. After that, Wu Yan ignored Heathcliff and went back upstairs alone. Heathcliff narrowed his eyes and chuckled. We'll meet again one day. The next day, Wu Yan looked up at the huge stone tower. He touched the heaven gazer on his back and licked his lips. Looking at the staircase leading to the next level, Wu Yan stepped inside without hesitation. Half a day later, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the entire second floor. The second floor was cleared. It's only been a day since the first floor was cleared. Chapter 637. SAO. It's been almost a year since Aincrad's first and second floors were cleared. 1 year is neither too long nor too short, but for the players living in SAO, this year is longer than any other year in the past, and it's infinitely long. A lot of things happened in this year, so much so that even the players living in SAO didn't know about it. Of course, that's only limited to the real world. In SAO, due to the special nature of this world, some information can be passed around freely. The most eye-catching thing is naturally the progress of Aincrad's raid. After clearing the first and second floors, the progress of SAO's raid was completely reversed. Players who were stuck on the first floor for an entire month didn't experience it again. This is because clearing the first and second floors made the players living in SAO realize that it's possible to raid this game. In addition, a year ago Aincrad's second floor was cleared in a single day, which gave the players a lot of hope. In the following year, all the players with a little bit of ambition put in a lot of effort to raid Aincrad. They were no longer as muddle-headed as they were in the first floor. As a result, the raid progress has greatly increased. It took a month to clear the first floor and a day to clear the second floor. But in this year the players have already reached the 55th floor, which is more than half of Aincrad's floors. Currently, the players and guilds who were at the front lines of the game had already formed a group of clearers, aiming to reach the top floor of Aincrad and continue to fight on the highest floor of Aincrad. Although the clearers only make up a few hundred of the thousands of players in SAO, their level and equipment are far superior to the average player. Most of the credit for clearing Aincrad's 55th floor in a year is due to them. Among them, the clearers are divided into 5 factions. The first faction is Xianxia. Their guild leader is Klein. It's a very average guild. It's not very outstanding and it's not as unscrupulous as other guilds. However, it's a highly praised guild. Even if its performance is average, it's definitely one of the top guilds in SAO. The second faction is Divine Dragon Alliance. Compared to Xianxia, their behavior is much worse. They're willing to do anything to clear Aincrad's floors, even if they hurt players and become orange players. Because of this, the position of their leader has been changed frequently. Although it's currently unknown, there's no doubt about their strength. They even have the second most members in SAO. The third faction was the Knights of the Blood. Their leader was Heathcliff, recognized as the strongest guild in Aincrad. They didn't have a lot of members, but almost all of them were elites. Their vice president was Asuna, and their leader was Heathcliff. One could easily imagine the strength of the Knights of the Blood. As for the fourth faction, it's a bit surprising. The first 3 factions are exactly the same as the original game, but the fourth faction isn't in the original game. Moonlit Black Cats. Their leader Keita. In the past year, thanks to the help of a certain someone and the tireless efforts of the Moonlit Black Cats, a small guild with only 6 members has become one of the top 5 guilds in SAO. Although they have the least number of members among the clearers, every one of them is quite strong. Moreover, the members of Moonlit Black Cats always had the best equipment in the clearers. Even though they were the weakest among the clearers, they weren't any weaker than Divine Dragon Alliance and Xianxia. Their equipment was the best among the clearers. As for why the Moonlit Black Cats were able to have the newest and best equipment at all times, the main culprit was naturally a certain bug-like player's contribution. Finally, the last faction of the clearers, which is also the weakest faction, is the solo player faction. There are only 2 players in this faction. One is called Agile, the owner of an item house. He's a careful businessman who has secretly contributed a lot to nurturing middle-level players. Although he's not a member of any guild, he's strong enough to rival the clearers. The other person is Kirito. Thanks to a certain someone, Kirito didn't get ostracized on the first floor like the original work, and he didn't get involved with the Moonlit Black Cats, which caused him to suffer a severe psychological blow. However, Kirito seemed to be used to being a lone wolf. Even though he didn't have as few friends as the original work, he almost never teamed up with anyone. Still, no one doubted his strength, and there wasn't a single player who didn't know the name Black Swordsman. Originally, there was another faction in the Clearers, the Army. It's the largest guild with the most members, and its strength isn't inferior to any of the Clearers. However, due to the heavy casualties they suffered in the 25th floor, the army withdrew from the Clearers. Although they're still active in the front lines, they're not as active as before. Thanks to the hard work of the Clearers and the Clearers, 2/3 of the 55th floor of Aincrad were cleared by them. They contributed a lot to the Clearers and their idols among the Clearers. But the remaining 1/3 of the 55th floor of Aincrad was cleared by one person. That's right. One person. And that person is none other than Wu Yan. If the Clearers are the idols of the Clearers, then Wu Yan is the god in the eyes of the Clearers and the Clearers. He's the only one who managed to clear 1/3 of the Clearers in a year's time. Who else can do that? Don't even talk about who can do it. Even if the Clearers were to compare, none of them would be able to do it. He never appeared in the eyes of the Clearers, and even the intelligence merchants have a hard time finding him. It's said that after clearing a floor, he would immediately go to the labyrinth area of that floor. He never leveled up in the wild, and even if he did, he would only appear in the wild when he was fighting the wild boss. This is the only time a lucky player would be able to track him down. There are also people who have seen him in towns and cities. However, towns and cities are filled with crooks and honest folk. Most of the time, a single similarity would cause a ruckus. Thus, not many people would believe a sighting in a town or city. This added a mysterious aura to this godlike existence. In SAO, 99 out of 100 players would say Wu Yan is the most popular player among the female players, and the remaining one would say that he's the one who's jealous of Wu Yan. After all, a single person can play the same role as the Clearers. In this game world where players are waiting to be saved, it's natural that he's a godlike existence. A year ago, Wu Yan was only qualified to be the strongest Clearers in the game, but now there's no doubt that he's the strongest Clearers. Because everyone who saw Wu Yan saw the elf sitting on his shoulder, so the Clearers gave Wu Yan such a title, Fey Swordsman. Chapter 638. Everyone knew that the legendary Fey Swordsman was so powerful that he was able to clear 1/3 of Aincrad's 55 floors by himself. However, they didn't know that the legendary Fey Swordsman they were talking about almost tore a piece of flesh out of their hearts when he heard their praises. With Wu Yan's strength, if he could clear so many floors by himself with a Fey Swordsman, would it be difficult for him to clear 2/3 of the floors? No. It's not difficult at all. Wu Yan is strong enough to solo the boss, and he's also strong enough to dominate the labyrinth. It's only a matter of time for him to clear 2/3 of the floors, but it's precisely because of this that it's a big problem. After all, he's alone and he can only rely on himself to run around in the labyrinth. Naturally, he can only rely on himself to find the boss's room. There are so many people in the Clearers, and Wu Yan might have to face them all together. However, it's not unreasonable to say that there's strength in numbers. At the very least, when it comes to finding the boss's room, the party with more people would have a huge advantage. Because of this, when Wu Yan was looking for the boss's room, the Clearers would have already entered the boss's room. Then not long after, the news of clearing the floor would reach Wu Yan's ears. While he was looking for dessert with great difficulty, someone else had eaten it. What kind of feeling was this? Wu Yan doesn't know about other people's feelings, but Wu Yan knows that he's in a bad mood. In fact, Wu Yan could have asked the moonlit black cats to notify him when they found the boss, and it would have saved him a lot of trouble. Keita wouldn't have refused, but Wu Yan is a stubborn person. If he's determined to clear the floor by himself, he's going to do it all by himself. Moreover, doing this is no different from kill-stealing. Wu Yan disdained to do such a thing. Thus, while others are immersed in the worship of Wu Yan's achievements, Wu Yan himself sees it as a disgrace. To sum it up, his personality was acting up. Why didn't he think about it? If he didn't have a healing fairy, would he dare to rush into the labyrinth every time he went up a new floor? Most likely he would have to take some time to use recovery tools, which would greatly reduce his leveling speed. If that were to happen, his battle record would be even worse. After all, the monsters in the labyrinth did not come alone. Instead, they came in large groups. A single person's strength was ultimately limited. Unless the level gap was too large, it was impossible to guarantee that he would not be attacked by a group of monsters. That being said, Wu Yan wasn't willing to be the underdog. Every time he got up early in the morning and groped around in the labyrinth area, he wanted to find the boss room one step ahead of the clearers and slay it to clear the 55th floor of Aincrad. Subconsciously, Wu Yan wanted to spar with the clearers. It's for the sake of fun. Otherwise, he'd just be killing monsters all day long. It's fine if it's a short period of time, but if it's a long period of time, it's not that fun anymore. In a way, the clearers can be considered as Wu Yan's competitor. Of course, the only person who can treat the clearers as his competitor is Wu Yan, whether it's in terms of strength or mentality. Currently, it's been about 2 to 3 days since the 54th floor was cleared and the clearers reached the 55th floor. In these 2 to 3 days, even the clearers couldn't reach the labyrinth area. There are a lot of wild monsters on the way from the town to the labyrinth area. Only Wu Yan can ignore them and go straight to the labyrinth area. This is one of the benefits of being a solo player. He doesn't need to worry about the team's progress. In the labyrinth area, Wu Yan is the only one moving around. In these 2 to 3 days, Wu Yan killed the monsters in the labyrinth area twice or thrice, but he still couldn't find the boss room. It's the same today. He returned empty-handed. If he can find the boss room, then Wu Yan is confident that he can clear the floor. Only Onii-san can have such confidence. Sachi sent such a sentence in the mail which made Wu Yan smile proudly. It's true, even the clearers don't dare to boast that they have absolute confidence in clearing the floor. Other than the clearers, there's no one else who can say such a thing. It's a pity that I can't find it. After feeling proud for a while, Wu Yan felt helpless again. Labyrinth area, is it the path or the boss room that got lost? Can't you just let me find it? Every floor's boss room isn't set in the same place. Otherwise, Onii-san, you would be the only one playing the game in SAO. Sachi said in the mail. It's obvious that she trusts Wu Yan a lot. If there's anyone who knows Wu Yan the best, Moonlit Black Cats wouldn't dare to say they're the best. After all, the only people who are close to Wu Yan are the 6 founding members of Moonlit Black Cats. By the way, Onii-san, do you know about today's event? Today's event? Wu Yan looked at the mail in front of him, his eyes narrowed. Are you talking about the special boss that will only appear tonight? The special boss that can drop resurrection items. Yeah. Sachi was a bit envious when she sent the email. In SAO, players who die once can't be resurrected, and as long as they die once, they will die in the real world as well. However, the special boss that appeared tonight can drop items that can revive players. If we can have it, it's like having an extra life in our hands. Onii-san, do you think the resurrection items information is real? It's reasonable for Sachi to ask that question. When a player dies, their body in the real world will also die, so can this resurrection item really resurrect them in the real world? Who would believe it if he told them? Wu Yan is familiar with the original work, so of course he believes it. He knows that the resurrection item can only resurrect players who died within 10 seconds. In other words, when a player dies in SAO, there's a 10-second buffer before the helmet will destroy the player's brain. If a player uses the resurrection item to resurrect within 10 seconds, their body in the real world won't be attacked by the helmet. Wu Yan knows this, but he can't explain it to Sachi. He can only vaguely remind her. Since there's such an event, the information shouldn't be fake. Maybe when a player dies, the helmet will destroy the player's brain, and during that time the resurrection item should be effective. Onin, you mean, Wu Yan smirked. The information about the resurrection item should be real, but there must be conditions for resurrection. For example, the item can only be used within a certain period of time after the player's death, and it won't be effective if it expires. That makes sense. Well, in any case, it's better to believe it than not. It's necessary to take a look. So, Onion, are you going to look for the special boss? Wu Yan didn't answer Sachi's question. Instead, he asked a question. Sachi, have you found the location of the special boss? Yes, we have. According to the information, the special boss will appear in the 35th floor of the Forest of Wandering. The guild leader has already set off with his men. The Moonlit Black Cats have set off? Then the other guilds should be there as well, right? Opening his interface, Wu Yan pulled up the skill bar. Looking at one of the skills, a smile appeared on his face. Looks like I'll have to meet the clearers. Chapter 639. Aincrad's 35th floor, Forest of Wandering. It's said that the special boss that will only appear tonight will drop a resurrection item. A resurrection item is undoubtedly a very rare item. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's the rarest item in the game. Because after tonight the special boss won't appear again. So, you can either kill the special boss tonight and get a resurrection item, or you can only get one resurrection item at most. Of course, such an item is extremely rare. What's more, in SAO the most important thing isn't equipment or money, it's life. Having a resurrection item in hand is equivalent to having a new life. Plus, you can only get one resurrection item at most, so no one wouldn't want such a precious item. Therefore, after the news spread, a large number of players in Aincrad's 35th floor Forest of Wandering rushed to this place. Most of these players are members of the Clearers. They're the fastest to get information about the special boss. While other players are still waiting for news, they've already arrived at Forest of Wandering. In the original work, Kirito came to the Forest of Wandering to revive Sachi, Furinkazan, and Divine Dragon Alliance, who followed Furinkazan followed by Furinkazan. But here the Clearers are the only ones who got information about the special boss. In other words, the original plot has changed a little. It's not hard to understand. In the original work, Kirito was the one who deduced the location of the special boss and came here. In order to resurrect Sachi, he had to go all out and fight the special boss alone. He didn't want the resurrection item to fall into the hands of others. But this time, Kirito's relationship with Sachi isn't as close as in the original work. At most, they're just comrades in the front line. They've only met 2 or 3 times and Sachi didn't die, so Kirito didn't care about the resurrection item as much as in the original work. Since Kirito relaxed, the others naturally took the opportunity to chase after him. And so, the entire Clearers came to Forest of Wandering to fight for the resurrection item. At the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, the players split up and occupied the 4 corners. The easternmost was Elements, who were all dressed in red armor and had all sorts of weapons. Standing at the front was Klein. There were more than 10 Elements members here. Although there weren't many of them, their aura was strong and they should be able to deal with this situation. To the west of Furinkazan was the Divine Dragon Alliance. They didn't have a leader and they had all sorts of equipment. They were the only guild with uneven equipment. Moreover, every member had a sinister smile on their face. It was obvious that they weren't good people. The first impression they gave was definitely negative. Next to the Divine Dragon Alliance was the Moonlit Black Cats. Their leader was Sutta. Aside from the 3 male elders, the rest were unfamiliar faces. Sachi and Xian didn't come. As players, they weren't that strong. At the very least, they couldn't stand on the front lines. Sachi usually handled the affairs of the Moonlit Black Cats. Xian, on the other hand, became a professional potioneer. The two didn't participate in battles, but they were relatively safe. Unlike Furinkazan, the members of Moonlit Black Cats didn't wear the same equipment as Furinkazan. However, their equipment isn't ordinary. Sutta and company used their relationship with Wu Yen to buy the latest equipment from him at a low price. Since Wu Yen always stood at the top of the players, he always went to the labyrinth to level up. The equipment he got was also the best. He didn't need that much equipment, so it was normal for Sutta and the others to help him get rid of it. It's just that the buyer was the Moonlit Black Cats themselves. As for the people standing at the westernmost part of the Forest of Wandering, they were all members of the Knights of Blood Oath. They were all wearing white uniforms with red edges, outer armor, and a cape on both shoulders. They didn't have that many people, only a dozen or so. It was about the same as Furinkazan and Moonlit Black Cats. Other than the Divine Dragon Alliance, the other 3 guilds didn't send that many people. A special boss was still a boss. It was much stronger than a wild boss. Even if it was on the 35th floor, no one would believe that it only had the strength of a 35th floor boss. At the very least, this special boss was at least as strong as a floor boss on the 40th floor. If too many people came, it would only be a hindrance. Only the Divine Dragon Alliance would send so many people. At the front of the Knights of the Blood Oath, the one who led them was the only female player present, and a very beautiful one at that. He wore the same white uniform with red edges as the other members of the Knights of the Blood Oath, but he was wearing a woman's short skirt. There was a cape on both sides of his thighs, and his smooth shoulders were exposed to the air. A pair of long white socks covered his thighs, and his chest was covered by a decorative shirt that looked like armor. On his waist, a weapon that looked like a western sword swayed with the wind. Among the tall and mighty Knights of the Blood Oath, he was the shortest, but he had the most imposing aura. Her long chestnut-colored hair hung down behind her back. Both sides of her hair were tied in braids that covered the entire back of her head. Her long bangs were slanted and 2 strands of hair fell parallel to her eyebrows, covering her waist. Her pupils, which were the same color as her hair, did not fluctuate at all. She looked cold yet full of heroic spirit. Flash. The vice leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath. Asuna, who was only willing to hide under a cape, finally showed her charming face to the outside world. She became the vice leader of the strongest guild in SAO, Knights of the Blood Oath. She's also the strongest female player in SAO. She's talented and beautiful. Asuna deserves to be praised like this. However, the coldness on her face made Asuna look sacred. She's one of the top 5 beauties in O, yet she's somehow pitiful. She's a beauty that can be ranked in the top 5 of SAO's female population. She's pitiful. She's a beauty that can only be admired from afar. Asuna frowned slightly and looked at Moonlit Black Cats, Xianxia, and Divine Dragon Alliance. Although Asuna had expected that there would be a bloody battle in the Forest of Wandering before she came here, she didn't expect it to end up in a deadlock. The 4 guilds are the clearers, they know each other the best. No one knows the strength of their opponents better than them, so no one wants to be the first to step out. That's how the stalemate came to be. At a certain moment, at the entrance of the Forest of Wandering behind them, a series of ripples spread out like water ripples. Not long after, a team of about 20 people wearing military armor rushed in and forcefully inserted themselves in the middle of the 4 opposing guilds. It was a very barbaric scene. Many people frowned when they saw this. Asuna glanced at the sudden appearance of the team. I didn't expect the army to be here as well. Well, it's a resurrection item, who wouldn't want it? Asuna only glanced at the people from the army for a second before turning her attention away. To her, the army and the Divine Dragon Alliance were nothing to be afraid of. They don't have a soul, they lack top-tier players, they're just relying on their numbers. At the same time, another ripple appeared at the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, attracting everyone's attention. Then a figure wearing a dark blue coat with a long sword on his back appeared. Many people were stunned when they saw this person. Klein shouted in surprise. Kirito. It's Kirito. Chapter 640. Kirito didn't expect there to be so many people here. He was startled as soon as he came in. It wasn't until he heard Klein's voice that he came back to his senses. Kirito, you bastard. Klein abandoned his men and ran to Kirito without hesitation. If I knew you were coming, I would have told you to come with me. Kirito was the first person he met when he first entered SO. Klein treated him as his best friend even though Kirito didn't choose to stay in the town of beginnings with him. I didn't expect this either. Kirito looked at everyone strangely. I didn't expect this to happen. I thought I was the only one who found information about the special boss. Kirito didn't know where the special boss was in the closed beta. It was only available on Christmas Eve, so Kirito didn't know where the special boss was. Plus, he didn't care about the special boss as much as he did in the original novel, and he didn't want to risk his life in a one-on-one fight. Naturally, he was much later than the others. So the clearers are all here. Kirito glanced at Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Xianxia, Divine Dragon Alliance, and finally stopped at the army. Even they are here. It seems like the revival item fight is going to be difficult. It won't be that easy to get involved. Kirito didn't sound worried or anxious at all. Instead, he sounded very relaxed. It was as if he didn't care about the 5 top guilds at all. Hey Kirito. Klein chuckled. Since you're here, why don't you form a party with us? The revival item will belong to whoever gets it. Sure. Kirito agreed without hesitation. Kirito didn't experience the rejection from the original work, so he became the so-called cheater. He didn't have a deep relationship with the Moonlit Black Cats, which led to their demise. Compared to the original work, Kirito was much happier here. Without those nightmarish experiences, Kirito didn't need to form a party even though he was usually alone. He wouldn't refuse. The current situation. Even a fool would know that it was impossible for him to compete with 5 top-tier guilds by himself. The chances were slim, so it was better to team up with Klein. That way the chances of getting resurrection items would be much higher. Add to that the difficulty of the special boss. Even Kirito would have a 90% chance of dying if he were to fight it alone. Since he didn't have to respawn every time he died, of course Kirito wouldn't risk his life to fight it alone. Kirito joining Xianxia was undoubtedly a good thing. But for the other 4 guilds it wasn't a good thing. Asuna was the only one who was still expressionless. Her expression was terrifying. Of course Asuna knew Kirito. Not only did they team up on the first floor but they also often met each other in the clearers. Both of them were top clearers and their strength was close to each other. They often quarreled over strategies, so over time they became familiar with each other. But it's only limited to being familiar with each other. If there's a conflict of interest, Asuna wouldn't worry too much. For example, right now, Kirito followed Klein to Furinkazan's position and saw that everyone was in a stalemate, so he couldn't help but ask. Don't tell me we're going to keep going like this? There's still some time until midnight, but it'll take a long time to deal with the special boss. Hearing this, the members of the 5 guilds looked at each other and fell silent. They had to admit that Kirito's words made sense. Indeed, we can't let this stalemate continue. Asuna stepped forward and said loudly. Everyone, let's fight together. We'll follow the clearest rules and whoever gets the resurrection item will get it. What do you think? What do you think? Sutta, Klein, and Sutta pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army also had no objections. They have more people, so the chances of getting the resurrection item will be higher. At least that's what the 2 guilds thought. After everyone agreed, the heavy atmosphere in the air disappeared. Asuna nodded. Then, just as Asuna was about to announce her departure, a ripple appeared at the entrance of the Forest of Wandering, blocking Asuna's words. Everyone's expression froze as they turned to look at the source of the ripple. Now that all the clearers are here, even the solo player Kirito is here, who else is going to come? Could it be Agile? That's what everyone thought. They didn't even consider the possibility that it's a small guild or team. Even if they came, they're destined to return empty-handed compared to the 5 guilds here. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, the water rippled and spread out in all directions. The snowflakes floating in the dark night were also swept away by the water ripples. Then a figure slowly emerged from the water ripples and walked towards them. When the figure's full appearance appeared in the air, the eyes of nearly 100 players on the scene bulged out and they sucked in a mouthful of cold air. However, they didn't realize it at all. Instead, they rubbed their eyes as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. When they finally realized that what they saw wasn't wrong, their mouths gradually widened. In front of them, a figure wearing a black overcoat and carrying a long black greatsword slowly walked over from the ripples of the water. On the overcoat, there were ribbons tied to both arms and waist that whistled along with the snowy wind in the dark night, making this black figure appear free and easy. It made the eyes of those who looked at him a little more intoxicated. On his shoulder, a small fairy was sitting on it. The white light emitting from its body seemed to add a trace of warmth to its master, who was black all over. The 2 figures of different sizes, one black and one white, complemented each other perfectly. It was as if they were born to be like this, as if they were made by nature. Wearing a black coat, carrying a black greatsword, and a fairy sitting on his shoulder. Is there anyone in SAO who wouldn't recognize a person with this appearance? Fey Swordsman, Xian. It was unknown who shouted this, but the members of the 5 top guilds, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Elements, Divine Dragon Alliance and the army reacted one after another. Fey Swordsman. It's Fey Swordsman. The strongest player. Fey Swordsman Wu Yen. He's here too. I saw him in person. I saw the Fey Swordsman in person. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein finally snapped out of their daze when they heard the shouts from the members of the 5 guilds. Their faces immediately changed. It's him. Kirito was shocked. Is he that legendary man? Klein's face was full of excitement. He's here too. Sutta smiled. It's him. Asuna couldn't believe her eyes. Fey Swordsman, the strongest player, the legendary man who single-handedly cleared 20 floors of Aincrad. He's the mysterious man who hasn't been seen more than 10 times in the past year. And now he's in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, no matter which guild they're from, they're no different from normal people. All that's left is their commotion. It's really him. The coldness on Asuna's face has completely disappeared. Looking at the figure that left a deep impression on her, Asuna's eyes began to flicker with emotion. Wondrous Brush Pavilion 5200 No pop-up window quick update remember. Chapter 641. Wu Yen couldn't help but be surprised by the number of people he saw. He paused for a split second before he continued walking as if nothing had happened. Wu Yan left footprints in the snow behind him. They disappeared as soon as they appeared, as if no one had ever set foot on this place. However, no one could ignore the person walking towards them because he is a legend. Ta, 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 ta. Rhythmic footsteps entered everyone's ears, and it's getting closer and closer. Originally, the entrance to the Forest of Wandering was surrounded by the players of the 5 guilds. However, as Wu Yan got closer, the players who were closest to him subconsciously opened up a path for him to pass through. All of this was done subconsciously until they realized that they were the ones who made way for Wu Yan. The title of the strongest player in the Forest of Wandering is very powerful. Looking at the figure who ignored everyone present and walked in, none of the 100 or so players who were usually proud and arrogant dared to scold him. Perhaps they had such thoughts in their hearts. After all, they were players from top guilds. However, their bodies did not listen to their commands at all. Until a certain moment, a slightly excited voice broke the deathly silence. Yan. Suda's voice was loud and clear. He attracted a lot of attention. Suda straightened his back and walked towards Wu Yan under everyone's watchful eyes. Wu Yan stopped when he saw Suda walking towards him. He turned around to look at him. Although I heard that you've brought people here, I didn't expect you to be at the entrance. Glancing at the players from Blood Oath Cavalry, Moonlit Black Cats, Fearing Kazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army, the corner of his lips curled up. What? Are you going to welcome me? Suda scratched his head awkwardly when he heard Wu Yan's words. The other members of the Moonlit Black Cats were dumbfounded. Their guild leader was usually very kind, but he wouldn't show such an expression. It was as if he was facing an elder brother or an idol. Only the 3 elders who had accompanied Keita all this time knew how much this man had changed their guild. It could be said that without him, the Moonlit Black Cats wouldn't have been able to reach where they were today. In a way, Wu Yan is the benefactor of Suda and the others. But very quickly, the stupidity on the faces of the members of the Moonlit Black Cats disappeared, and was replaced by a strong sense of excitement. His president was actually acquainted with that legendary powerhouse. What a glorious thing this was. Almost every player in SAO knows that the Fey swordsman Wu Yan is a super strong player who rarely shows his face. It's hard to even catch a glimpse of him. Even if they can't recruit him into their guild, they can at least get acquainted with him. It was easy to imagine how the members of the Moonlit Black Cats felt when they found out that their guild leader was friends with this person. As the top players of this world, they actually felt proud of themselves. As for the Blood Oath Cavalry Regiment, Fearing Kazan, Sacred Dragon Alliance, and the army, their faces turned cold. They had a bad feeling about this. If that legendary figure were to join the Moonlit Black Cats, then the battle for this special boss would be. Thinking of this, the respect they had for Wu Yan disappeared. All that was left was vigilance. With the precious resurrection item in front of them, no matter how legendary this person is, he's destined to be their enemy. Of course, Suda doesn't think so. He knows this person in front of him won't be on the same side as him. It's been like this for the past year. That's why Suda didn't invite Wu Yan to join the party. Instead, he said helplessly, "Since you're here, then our chances of getting the resurrection item aren't very high." Don't say that. Wu Yan patted Suda's shoulder as he teased him. Maybe you'll get the last hit in the end? Suda shook his head in annoyance. Anyway, I don't have much hope. Wu Yan didn't say anything else. He looked up and scanned the faces of the players. Those who made eye contact with Wu Yan subconsciously felt awkward. Wu Yan didn't mind and continued to scan the players one by one. Finally, he stopped at 2 people. Kirito. Kirito wasn't surprised to see these 2 people he hadn't seen in a while. However, as soon as words caught Wu Yan's attention, Wu Yan couldn't help but sigh in amazement. He had never seen Asuna's real face before. He only saw her on TV or in the newspapers. Now that he's seeing her in person, Wu Yan had to admit that Asuna is very beautiful. She's so beautiful that even his other wives can't compare to her in terms of beauty. She's definitely one of the top beauties in the world. Wu Yan calmly looked at Kirito with a smile. Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a long time. Kirito sighed as he looked at the only player in this game that he respected. It's been about a year. Kirito replied. It's been a long time, but I've heard a lot about you. Wu Yan said. The Black Swordsman, you're very famous. Are you making fun of me? Kirito was speechless. Who can beat Wu Yan when it comes to lively performances? Wu Yan's reputation? Hey, Kirito. At this time Klein grabbed Kirito's head, pulled him closer and said sternly, "Do you know him?" "Yes, sort of." Kirito said casually. "We fought together when we were fighting the first floor's boss." "Damn it. You didn't even tell me you knew someone like him. You're such a bad brother." Klein glared at Kirito with jealousy. His tone was sour as if Kirito had stolen his wife, which made Kirito feel disgusted. Wu Yan was annoyed when he saw Klein and Kirito whispering to each other. He stopped talking and turned to Suta. "I'll be going first." With that, Wu Yan left everyone behind and walked into the depths of the Forest of Wandering. Nearly 100 players watched Wu Yan walk into the forest. When Wu Yan's figure disappeared into the water, they started whispering to each other. "Vice Commander." A member of Knights of the Blood walked up to Asuna who was looking at Wu Yan's disappearing figure. "What should we do?" Everyone in the 5 guilds had the same question. Although the resurrection item is precious, none of them thought that a legendary figure would be attracted to it. Originally, with the other guilds as their opponents, they could have used the clearest rules to win, or they could have used their trump cards to compete with the other guilds. Wu Yan's arrival caught them off guard. Competing with the strongest player in the game, the Fey swordsman, who could fight against the clearers alone. On the surface, it looked like they had the absolute advantage and victory was within their grasp. However, they have a feeling that they won't be able to win against the other party. Asuna pursed her lips and calmed down. She waved her hand and said, "Follow him. Act according to the situation." "Yes." At the same time, the other 4 guilds made the same decision. Chapter 642. According to the intel, the Christmas Eve special boss will appear under a fir tree. If the information that the special boss was located in the Forest of Wandering was obtained only after painstaking investigation and deduction, then the information that the boss was located under a fir tree was the best piece of information to deduce. After all, it was Christmas Eve and the special boss was an event on Christmas Eve. As a Christmas event, it wasn't too hard to guess that the special boss would appear at the fir tree. It was easy to guess what was related to Christmas. In fact, most people had already guessed that the special boss this time would be similar to Santa Claus's appearance. In the Forest of Wandering there were many fir trees. However, there was only one tree that could accommodate a boss and be used as a Christmas event venue. That was the tallest and largest fir tree in the deepest part of the Forest of Wandering. Wu Yan followed the map and arrived at the location of the fir tree. After passing through a teleportation point in the Forest of Wandering, the tree entered his sight. Wu Yan looked up at the tree. It's a rare sight even in the behemoth forest of the Spalier world. He walked towards the tree with a relaxed expression. It's like he's here for an outing and not to fight a boss. When Wu Yan walked towards the tree, a series of water ripples appeared behind him. The Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Fearing Kazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army all appeared under the leadership of Asuna, Kirito, Suta, and Klein. They stopped in their tracks as if by prior agreement, and surrounded the place as they had done at the entrance of the forest, raising their eyes to look at the figure walking towards the fir tree. "One-on-one. It's a one-on-one duel, right?" Klein grinned and laughed. "I can finally witness the power of the legendary Fey swordsman." Kirito nodded and stared at the figure in front of him. He muttered, "Let's see the difference between us. He's alone again." Asuna went silent. She didn't know what to feel about this. Wu Yan left a deep impression on her, so she's been paying attention to Wu Yan for the past year. In the past year she had learned of his strength, his achievements, and his current situation. However, all of these pieces of information had the same message. From the beginning to the end, he had always been alone. "Maybe there's no one in this world who can team up with me." Asuna clenched her fists when she remembered what he said. She doesn't know why, but she really cares about that sentence. After all, Asuna was alone in SAO for the first month of her stay in SAO. Maybe it's because of her experience, or maybe it's because she's curious, but Asuna cares about Wu Yan a lot. She already cared about him since a year ago, and it's only gotten stronger after a year. Wu Yan didn't know about this yet. If he did, he would have been shocked. Back then he only exchanged a few words with Asuna, that's all they did. The tall fir tree in front of him does look a bit like a Christmas tree. If he hung some decorations on it, it would be a perfect Christmas tree. However, Wu Yan didn't see any signs of the boss. In the sky, the sound of a Christmas bell suddenly rang in the snowy sky. Along with the sound of the bell, it resounded loudly and attracted everyone's attention. Raising their heads to look at the snowflakes floating in the night sky, everyone saw two lines of clouds that looked like planes flying through the clouds. They flew quickly into the distance and disappeared into the night in an instant. Then a huge figure fell from the sky without any warning. With an incomparably swift whistling sound, it smashed into the ground with a loud bang. The snowflakes on the ground were swept away by the force, shrouding the huge figure. In the blink of an eye, it dissipated in a gust of wind. A monster that looks like Santa Claus appeared in the middle of the snowflakes. Its skin is greenish-black and its face is distorted. It looks like an adult version of Santa Claus. Its eyes are protruding and there's a red glow in them. It's the boss. Behind them, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Fearing Kazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army all grabbed their weapons and got ready to charge. After Asuna, Sutta, and Klein stopped them, Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, and Fearing Kazan relaxed and stared at the boss. Only Divine Dragon Alliance and the army were still eager to charge at the boss. Looking at the 4 to 5 meter tall boss, Wu Yan narrowed his eyes. His wine-red pupils didn't contain any emotion as he looked at the boss. It's as if he's looking at a monkey brandishing a sword or a gun. He didn't even look at the boss in the eye. Maybe the boss noticed the contempt of the little guy in front of her. Her malevolent face started shaking like a puppet. She started making clacking noises as her bloodshot eyes started moving around randomly. She stared at Wu Yan for a second before fixing her gaze on Wu Yan. Boom! A loud thud could be heard. That's the sound of the boss stomping on the ground. He pulled out an axe and with a stomp he charged at Wu Yan with the force of a mountain. Looking at the charging boss, Wu Yan raised his hand and lightly placed it on the hilt of Heaven Gazer on his back. His coat fluttered in the wind caused by the boss's charge, but Wu Yan didn't do anything. Only when the boss got close to him did he pull out Heaven Gazer. Clang! A strong gust of wind blew from where the two collided. Along with the sound of weapons clashing, the wind whistled and blew in all directions. It was like an avalanche and the clearers were hit by a blizzard. The players all raised their hands to shield their faces, their eyes squinting from the snowflakes and strong winds. However, none of them were willing to close their eyes for a moment of comfort. They knew that if they missed today's battle, they might not be able to see the elven swordsman fight again. Of course, Wu Yan didn't disappoint them. They could only see the outline of the figure buried in the snow, but they could see the other figure clearly. That's why they saw the 5-meter-tall body of the boss flying in the air from the center of the battle. It spun around and flew out from the center of the battle. Klein's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle, and a drop of sweat dripped down his forehead. What a powerful force. Asuna, Kirito, and Sutta didn't say anything. They just stared at the scene in front of them. They didn't want to miss anything. Bang! The flying boss was smashed into the ground by this attack, causing countless snowflakes to fly up. The 4 long HP bars on the boss were visibly reduced by more than half. In other words, this attack had directly shaved off 1/8 of the boss's HP. So powerful. Chapter 643. Since the special boss on Christmas Eve could drop precious resurrection items, its strength was naturally unparalleled. Otherwise, any random player could kill this boss. Then the 5 guilds wouldn't need to send so many elites. Moonlit Black Cats, Elements, and even the guild leaders came personally. Knights of the Blood sent out their vice leader. Divine Dragon Alliance and the army used their numbers to suppress the situation. All of this told others how strong the boss was. Perhaps it was because of the resurrection item, but more importantly, it was because of the strength of the boss itself. According to preliminary estimates, the strength of a special boss was at least as strong as a level 40 boss and above. There was no upper limit. Even if Kirito and Asuna went up against a boss monster like this, their chances of victory would be slim. They would need to team up and take some unnecessary risks. However, in Wu Yan's hands, the boss monster was like a child facing off against a giant. In less than 5 seconds, the boss's HP bar dropped by January 8th. What does this mean? This meant that the boss in front of them would be destroyed in just 7 more 5 seconds and 7 more attacks like this. It's as weak as a wild monster. The players looked at each other. They were stunned when they saw the boss's HP bar drop by January 8th. Too strong. Too strong. Klein gulped. No wonder he could clear 20 floors of Aincrad by himself. He's not even on the same level as us. How did he train? Is there a bug in Sao? That's impossible. Kirito shook his head with a bitter smile. I don't want to admit it, but Sao is surprisingly fair and stable. If there's a bug that can be exploited, there's more than one player who can do it. There's no shortage of players with sharp eyes in this game. Klein fell silent and turned to look at Keita. How do you know him? You guys seem to be close. We've known each other for a long time. Sita stared straight ahead. He's the calmest one out of everyone here after seeing Wu Yan's performance. We met on the second day of the game. We've known each other for a long time. He helped me a lot to get to where I am today. Asuna, Kirito and Klein finally understood why the moonlit black cats kept up with the times and why they were always among the best in terms of equipment. If it's because of Wu Yan, then it's a lot easier to explain. Indeed, without these advanced equipment, the strength of the moonlit black cats would drop by at least a level. Not to mention the strongest guild, the Knights of the Blood Oath, they would be even weaker than Furin Kazan and Divine Dragon Alliance. They would only be able to compare to the army that had suffered heavy casualties a while ago. Asuna suddenly asked. You've known him for so long, have you ever teamed up with him? Sutta paused and sighed. No, not even once. We don't even have the qualifications to team up with him even now. Asuna bit her lip. Could it be that he didn't form a team from the beginning to the end? Keita nodded his head heavily. As far as I know, yes. Asuna didn't know what to say anymore. Are you serious? Klein looked at Kirito. Looks like he's even more of a loner than you. At least you've teamed up with him a few times. Kirito crossed his arms in front of his chest. If I was as strong as him, I wouldn't have teamed up with him. Kirito was a loner by nature. He had always been alone. The few times he had formed a party was because he was forced to fight a boss or a boss. If Kirito had the strength to fight a boss alone, he wouldn't have formed a party with his personality. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein didn't notice that Divine Dragon Alliance and army's members were sneaking up on them from both sides. Bam! Another crushing blow sent the boss flying, taking away 1/8 of its HP. Wu Yan dodged and pulled some distance away from the boss. At this time, the boss's HP bar had already been emptied by 2 bars, dropping down to the yellow state of half HP. Wielding Heaven Gazer, Wu Yan was about to charge forward again when his body froze. His relaxed expression disappeared in an instant and his eyes flashed with a sharp glint. He retracted his leg that was about to exert force and came to a stop. Asuna, Kirito, Sutta, and Klein were confused when they saw Wu Yan stop attacking. The boss only had half of its HP left. Wu Yan could easily deal with it. Why did he stop? Kirito looked at Wu Yan in confusion and then at the boss. He was shocked. What are they doing? Asuna, Sutta, and Klein froze for a moment and followed Kirito's gaze. When they saw what was going on, they were shocked. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army crept up to the boss from the side and started to charge at the boss. They were obviously planning to snatch the boss for themselves. These bastards. Sutta was the first to get angry. He clenched his fists. How dare they try to steal the boss? Don't they feel ashamed? Ha! These bastards have done a lot of shameful things. Klein said with a face full of disgust. The Divine Dragon Alliance is famous for being willing to do anything for rare items. The same goes for the army. In the name of saving the people, they have done a lot of things like plundering items. Asuna and Kirito didn't say anything. They didn't have any expression on their faces, but their eyes were filled with disgust. They hated this kind of behavior. Hey Sutta. Klein joked. Aren't you going to help him? Don't you guys have a good relationship? Even though he doesn't agree with the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army's actions, he can't just step in and cause a misunderstanding. It's not worth it. Klein also wants the resurrection item, but he doesn't want to offend that legendary figure. He's someone who can solo the boss in the labyrinth. They can't afford to offend him. The Xunglong Alliance and the army were blinded by greed. Sutta is the only one here who has a reason to step in. As for Asuna, who knows what she's thinking? Sutta shook his head with a smile and turned around. He's not that weak to the point where he needs help. Weak? Kirito and Klein had a strange expression on their faces. The Divine Dragon Alliance and the army aren't that lucky, but they're still 2 of the top 5 guilds in the game. They have the advantage in numbers. No matter how strong the boss is, it's still losing HP under the constant attacks of the 2 guilds. The leaders of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army immediately shouted and increased the intensity of their attacks. They did not seem to realize that they had killed other monsters. It was as if they were the ones who had been fighting the boss all along. They also ordered the members who had low HP to go down and drink recovery potions. Not long after, the boss's HP finally dropped to red. The two guilds were excited. Just as they were about to attack the boss, a shadow flashed by and appeared in front of the boss at an unimaginable speed. Bang! The glowing heavenly gazer slashed down on the boss. The boss's HP was reduced to nothing. Its huge body shattered into pieces and fell on the shadow that appeared out of nowhere. The members of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army were stunned. Chapter 644. The sound of the final blow was still echoing in the snowy night. The entire forest of wandering reverberated with the sound of the final blow. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army were dumbfounded. The boss was about to die in their hands, but someone else managed to steal the final blow. The eyes of the members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army turned crimson red. Their faces contorted in anger. They had completely forgotten that they were the ones who stole the boss from the other guilds. Under the fir tree, Wu Yan carried the Heaven Gazer on his back. He did not even look at the members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army. He opened up his personal interface and tapped on his inventory. A diamond-shaped golden pedestal appeared in his hand. At the center of the golden rhombus-shaped pedestal was a blue circular crystal. Weighing the item in his hand, Wu Yan tapped on it and the item's information popped up in front of him. Let me see. Saint Crystal of Soul Return. Resurrection item. Can be used within 10 seconds of the target player's death. After using it, the target player will be given a chance to resurrect. What the hell? There's a time limit. The sound of someone reading aloud echoed in the silent snowy night. It was heard by every player in the area. The players who were still in a daze looked at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in Wu Yan's hand. Their eyes were burning with desire. The news that the special boss that would only appear tonight would drop resurrection items was doubtful in the eyes of the players who knew about it. The reason was that once they died in the game, their bodies in the real world would die at the same time. Could it be that items in the game could resurrect the dead in the real world? Of course, that was impossible. However, since the news was spread, it would not be without reason. It might actually be possible. That was why all the major guilds sent their people to meet this so-called special boss. Now that the special boss was finally dead, the resurrection item dropped. Although there was a time limit to the resurrection target's death, the resurrection item was real. A resurrection item. Everyone stared at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in Wu Yan's hand. Zvina, Sita and Klein were the same. Only Kirito looked away after a glance. It was as if he did not care about it at all. Wu Yan, who was in the center of everyone's attention, put the Saint Crystal of Soul Return in his inventory and walked towards the exit. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and army looked at each other. They could not resist the greed in their hearts and surrounded Wu Yan. Asuna, Kirito, Sita and Klein's expression changed. So they're going to rob it? Sita's voice. Idiot. Hey, shouldn't we help him? Klein elbowed Sita. We can't let him kill the Divine Dragon Alliance in the army, can we? It'll cause a lot of trouble. Asuna and Kirito were reminded of Wu Yan's declaration during the first floor boss strategy meeting a year ago. Their expression turned heavy. If Divine Dragon Alliance and army got slaughtered by Wu Yan, it'll cause a huge uproar in SAO. The speed of clearing Aincrad will drop by a few notches. Those guys are annoying, but they're not at the point where they need to pay with their lives. They can't let that happen. Enough is enough. Asuna led the members of Knights of the Blood forward. She broke through the encirclement of Divine Dragon Alliance and army and stood between Wu Yan and the two guilds. The boss battle is over and the resurrection item has been dropped. There's no point in fighting anymore. Asuna said loudly, "Do you really want to sacrifice your life for something other than the boss battle?" Vice Leader. The leader of the Divine Dragon Alliance stepped forward, and he pointed at Wu Yan, who looked like he didn't notice anything amiss. He's not part of the clearers. The rules don't apply to him, right? That's right. Army's leader also stepped forward and glanced at Wu Yan. He's not part of the clearers, Vice Leader. The rules don't apply to him, otherwise we won't accept it. You won't accept it? Zvina leaned to the side. Her voice was filled with disgust. Then who should we accept it? You're the one who stole their boss, right? You can't say that, Vice Leader. Army's leader said with a righteous tone. In order to free the players trapped in Sao, the resurrection item should be used to help the clearers. Isn't that the most helpful? Zuna was speechless. She stared at the leader of the army, with her chestnut-colored eyes. The leader of the army actually puffed out his chest shamelessly and put on a righteous expression as if the truth was on his side. Yo, that's some big talk. Suda, Klein, and Moonlit Black Cats and Furing Kazan walked over and stood next to Asuna. So you're saying that we have to make sacrifices to save the players? Klein curled his lips. Then why did the army choose to rest after the casualties? Shouldn't you be at the front line even if you have to sacrifice the last man in your army to save the players? You. Army's leader choked. Divine Dragon Alliance's leader saw that Army's leader was shocked and decided to be rude. In short, we won't retreat until he hands over the resurrection item. Then I'll make it clear. Suda waved his hand and announced loudly. We Moonlit Black Cats will stand on your side. Asuna and Klein didn't say anything, but they didn't step aside either. They stood in front of Wu Yan. It's obvious that they want to support him. Kirito, who was standing on the side, saw this scene and frowned deeply. This is going to be troublesome. Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, Furing Kazan, Divine Dragon Alliance, and the army. These 5 guilds were not only the top guilds in Sao, but also the main force of the clearers. Without them, clearing Aincrad would become a never-ending dream. If these 5 guilds were to cause a ruckus here, the clearers wouldn't be disbanded, but it would definitely affect the clearers. At least it would greatly slow down the progress of the clearers. Wu Yan, who has been watching from the sidelines, suddenly smiled. It's a very evil smile. You want to rob us? His words silenced all the players in the room. Wu Yan walked past Asuna, Suta, and Klein. He stopped in front of the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army. He glanced at them and he said in a lazy tone. If you want to rob us, you can just say it. You don't have to flatter yourselves. Wu Yan shook his head and smiled. I hate it when people say one thing but think another. Disgusting. Asuna and the others were slightly shocked and there was a hint of anxiety in their eyes. Based on the situation just now, there are 3 guilds here and 2 guilds on the other side. In the end, they will part on bad terms, but at the same time, nothing will happen. But with Wu Yan's words, doesn't that mean he's not going to let this matter rest? Wu Yan didn't care at all. He took out the Saint Crystal of Soul Rebirth from his inventory and raised it in front of everyone. His lips curled into a cold smirk. Didn't you want it? Come and take it. Chapter 645. Silence. Everyone's gaze shifted to the Saint Crystal of Soul Return. Everyone, including Knights of the Blood, Moonlit Black Cats, and Furing Kazan, couldn't hide the desire in their eyes, let alone Divine Dragon Alliance and army. Their faces were filled with greed. However, when they saw the Saint Crystal of Soul return right in front of them, no one dared to take it, not even the 2 guilds that were making things difficult for them. The Fey swordsman Wu Yan, his name is a miracle in Sao. He managed to keep up with the clearest progress by himself. His feats have reached a peak in the past year, to the point that anyone who hears about him can't help but be in awe of him. Moreover, he had fully displayed his strength in the previous boss battle. No matter how many people the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army had, they could not rely on their numbers to offset the terrifying battle power of the man before them. Perhaps they could rely on their words and situation to suppress this famous Lone Ranger. They could also rely on some righteous reasons to blatantly demand what they want. However, if they were to actually fight this legendary Fey swordsman in front of them, there was not a single one of them who wouldn't be trembling in fear. The 2 leaders of the Sacred Dragon Alliance and the army stared at the Saint Crystal of Soul Return. They raised and lowered their hands, but they didn't dare to touch the crystal. They didn't know if the super powerhouse in front of them would attack them the moment they raised their hands. They also didn't know if the super powerhouse in front of them would show them any mercy. They were yelling for the Saint Crystal of Soul Return just a moment ago, but now they don't dare to take it. This strange scene made the atmosphere filled with mockery. Asuna, Kirito, Suda, and Klein, on the other hand, were relieved. At least this proved that the Divine Dragon Alliance and the army weren't completely blinded by greed. Asuna walked to Wu Yan's side and whispered in his ear. All right, don't push too hard or they might actually attack. Wu Yan curled his lips. He wanted to tell Asuna that he doesn't care if they attack or not, but he saw Asuna's serious expression and her eyes were a bit erratic. He smiled and rolled his eyes. He wanted to tease her. That. Wu Yan tilted his head and pretended to be confused. Who are you? Asuna's expression stiffened, her erratic eyes turned into anger. She looked up at Wu Yan, only to see Wu Yan's confused expression. Asuna suddenly remembered that she didn't reveal her true face to him. She pursed her lips and turned her head away. I'm Asuna. Asuna. Wu Yan held back his laughter and asked again. Who is Asuna? This time not only Asuna but Kirito, Sida, Klein and the other 2 guild leaders also had a weird expression. Asuna, the Flash, the vice leader of Knights of the Blood, one of the top 5 most beautiful women in SAO, he doesn't even know who she is? Asuna was furious. She leaned in front of Wu Yan and pointed at his chest. I say, even if you don't know my name, you should at least know my voice. Am I not enough for you to remember me for a year? Calm down. Calm down. Wu Yan took a step back and he awkwardly pushed his hand away. I remember now, I remember now. Asuna snorted coldly. She finally calmed down. He was the one who left the deepest impression on her in SAO, but he didn't remember her at all. It would be strange if he didn't remember her. Wu Yan smirked when he saw Asuna's angry expression. He said something that almost made Asuna explode. You're that cloaked girl, right? Cloaked girl. Asuna clenched her fists, her body trembled with anger. She took 2 deep breaths to calm herself down. Ah, that's right, I'm that cloaked woman. Asuna gritted her teeth and said, thank you for remembering me. Well, you're welcome. Asuna turned around and stared at Wu Yan's face. If looks could kill, Wu Yan would have died a few times already. Hey, are you kidding me? Klein said to Kirito. We're in the middle of a war, what are they doing? Flirting? Huh. Who knows? Kirito's mouth twitched. Maybe all powerful people are weird like that. Sida glanced at Kirito. It's obvious that he's one of those weird and powerful people. Kirito couldn't help but look away. Wu Yan put the Saint Crystal of Soul Return back into his inventory. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Wu Yan appeared behind the 2 leaders of Divine Dragon Alliance and Army. The 2 leaders broke out in cold sweat as they felt the pressure coming from behind them. Their faces paled. The members of Divine Dragon Alliance and Army retreated in horror. They didn't know when Wu Yan appeared next to them, but they couldn't even hold their weapons properly. If he attacked just now, gulp. The sound of saliva being swallowed could be heard, followed by a series of gasps. They now know that no one on their side can match Wu Yan's speed. Wu Yan turned his back to the 2 leaders and sighed. If you have time to waste on fighting, why don't you think about how to improve your own strength? Wu Yan started walking towards the exit. After all, strength is the only thing that can guarantee one's safety in this world. The Divine Dragon Alliance and Army didn't try to stop Wu Yan because they didn't have the confidence to do so. Sida shook his head. He's still as shocking as ever, Kirito said helplessly. He also left on his own. Well, that's good. Klein giggled. He looks like a strong person, super cool. Asuna's jaw dropped as she watched Klein leave. Her heart tightened as she watched him leave. Once again she left by herself. Asuna really wanted to stop Wu Yan and make him stay. She didn't know why, but she didn't want him to leave alone. Every time she looked at his back, she had a strong urge to chase after him. Maybe it's because of the regret from before, or maybe it's because of something else, but she didn't want to lose contact with him again. But she couldn't find a reason to stop him. Just like that time, Asuna clenched her teeth tightly and clenched her fists until they turned white. When a box appeared in front of her, Asuna's eyes lit up and she hurriedly chased after it. Wait. Asuna ran in front of Wu Yan and opened her arms as if she was afraid that Wu Yan would run away. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fine, I'll wait. Do you really need to do this? Asuna's face turned red. She coughed and pretended to be serious. Can you come with me for a second? Wu Yan's expression turned into one of excitement. This plot, could it be? Don't get the wrong idea. Asuna's face turned red again. It's our leader who wants to meet you. Commander? Wu Yan flinched and he lifted his head. Heathcliff, is it? Asuna nodded. That's right, Heathcliff just sent her an email and asked her to bring Wu Yan to his place. Heathcliff. Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a strange light. He smiled and looked at Asuna. Lead the way. Chapter 646. Aincrad's 55th floor, Granzum. In the corner of Granzum City, there's a silver-white castle-like building. It's like a king's palace filled with flags and statues. It's also like a war fortress full of deterrence. Standing in front of this building, one can't help but feel small and insignificant. Coupled with the fluttering flags, there's a faint murderous aura in the air. On top of the flag there's a sword-shaped symbol that looks like a cross. The bright red flag and the cross sword made it look very sacred. If someone who doesn't know about this place came here, they might think this is a king's palace or a general's residence. And this place was the headquarters of the Knights of the Blood. After more than a year, the so-called excellent new guild has transformed into the strongest guild in Sao. Knights of the Blood's name is known to all. Only those who were forced into a mental breakdown in Sao would know about this guild. Even in the first floor of the Town of Beginnings, there's no one who doesn't know about this guild. As the strongest guild in Sao, Knights of the Blood doesn't have a lot of members, only a few hundred. It's a little extravagant for them to live in this castle-like building, not to mention some of the higher-ups have their own houses. That's why even though it looks majestic from the outside, there aren't many people living in it. Along the way there's only a few people in the building. Maybe they're out on a mission or maybe they're just staying outside. In short, the inside of the building is completely different from the outside. It's unusually quiet. A place like this might be nice to look at, but it's not really suitable to live in. After coming to this conclusion, Wu Yan stopped looking at the empty walls and buildings. He followed Asuna and headed towards Heathcliff's residence. Asuna nodded when she saw Wu Yan stopped looking at the surroundings. She hesitated for a moment before she spoke softly. She seemed to understand what Wu Yan was thinking. Thank you." Wu Yan blinked and looked at Asuna in confusion. Asuna said softly. "That cookbook helped me a lot." Wu Yan nodded and waved his hand casually. "Well, it's good that I helped you. You don't have to thank me. Even without me you should be able to make a good cookbook. With your obsession with food." "What do you mean?" Asuna looked at Wu Yan with dissatisfaction. "Obsession with food? Am I a glutton?" "Well, who knows?" Wu Yan looked at Asuna with a meaningful smile. Asuna couldn't help but recall the way she ate in front of Wu Yan. Her face was filled with shame and anger. She put her hand on the hilt of her sword. Wu Yan quickly looked away. Asuna snorted and stopped talking to Wu Yan. She led him forward. If you look closely, Asuna's footsteps were a lot faster than before. Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. She's so childish. After turning a few corners, Asuna led Wu Yan through a long corridor surrounded by iron walls. It didn't take long for them to see a majestic door. Asuna walked ahead of Wu Yan and she pushed open the door. She didn't report her arrival to Wu Yan. She opened the door and the scene behind it was revealed to Wu Yan. It looked like a meeting room. It was spacious but not very decorated. There was only a long desk in the room. Behind the desk, Heathcliff was sitting in a red knight's robe. He looked at Wu Yan as he walked in. The Knights of the Blood flag was hanging on the wall behind him. Wu Yan walked forward and stopped about 5 meters away from Heathcliff. He looked at Heathcliff and Heathcliff looked back at him. Heathcliff looked at Wu Yan and the two looked at each other. Without the difference in environment, this scene is exactly the same as 1 year ago when they met on the second floor of the hotel. However, compared to a year ago their identities were completely different. A year ago Wu Yan was a new player and Heathcliff was the leader of a new guild. 1 year later, one of them had become the strongest player in the game, while the other had also become the leader of the strongest guild. The two of them didn't say anything when they met again after a year. They just stared at each other quietly, causing the entire room to be deathly silent. The atmosphere was extremely surging. Asuna held her breath and kept her mouth shut. Her chestnut-colored eyes wandered back and forth between the two figures. Her heartbeat quickened. After what seemed like an eternity, Heathcliff's laughter broke the heavy atmosphere. "Long time no see, Sir Wu Yan," Heathcliff said with an inexplicable emotion. "It's been a year since then." Wu Yan nodded and looked at Heathcliff with a piercing gaze. It was as if he wanted to see through Heathcliff's mind. "You've changed a lot in a year." "Oh? Is that so?" Heathcliff smiled. "More or less. After all, things are different now. I'm a person of status now, I can't just do whatever I want." "How is it?" Heathcliff said to Wu Yan. "As you said, I've brought my guild to the top of Sao. Knights of the Blood is now the strongest guild in the world. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" Wu Yan looked around the spacious room and said slowly. "The loss outweighs the gain. Asuna was stunned by Wu Yan's words. She looked at Wu Yan in surprise, but she didn't refute him. Instead she agreed with him. Heathcliff's eyes narrowed and said with a solemn face. Why would the loss outweigh the gain? Wu Yan twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at Heathcliff with a half-smile. Sometimes strength comes at a price. Commander Heathcliff, what do you think the price Knights of the Blood has to pay? Heathcliff went silent, but his eyes never left Wu Yan. After a while he shook his head and said, As I said, things are different now. Without some rules the guild will fall apart sooner or later. So, some restrictions are necessary, Heathcliff said bluntly. At least Knights of the Blood is the strongest guild in the world right now. That's undeniable. Wu Yan didn't say anything else and just nodded nonchalantly. Your guild doesn't matter to me anyway. How can it not matter? Yankin. Heathcliff raised his head. If you join the Knights of the Blood you'll have to remember all of this, right? Asuna was shocked when she heard Heathcliff's words. She quickly looked at Wu Yan. Wu Yan sighed and said to Heathcliff, Do you think I'll join your guild? Of course not. Heathcliff said without hesitation. It was as if he didn't really want to invite Wu Yan to join Knights of the Blood. To be honest, you used to terrify me. Heathcliff said with a serious look in his eyes. Commander. Asuna couldn't help but call out to him. Scared. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and looked at Heathcliff. Yes, scared. Heathcliff took a deep breath and said seriously. Before you appeared I didn't think anyone in this world could do this, but you did. So, I'm scared. Chapter 647. Heathcliff's words silenced the crowd once again. Looking at Wu Yan standing in front of him, Heathcliff's eyes flashed with a strange look. His expression became serious. Heathcliff was the only one who knew what he was doing. Everyone thought that he was the leader of a top guild, the one who walked on the front line and helped the players in SAO out of their predicament, but all of that was just a facade. After all, his game ID is Heathcliff, but his real name is Kayaba Akihiko. Kayaba Akihiko is the one who created SAO and trapped nearly 10,000 players in the game, causing thousands of players to die within a year. As the creator of SAO, Kayaba Akihiko has unimaginable power because he's the administrator of the game. In this world he's God. Even without his identity as Kayaba Akihiko, Heathcliff is still one of the top players in SAO. Even Kirito is weaker than him. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he's the strongest player in SAO if Wu Yan didn't exist. That's why Heathcliff said that he's afraid. Yes, as the administrator of SAO, he's afraid because of the man in front of him. As the creator of this world, no one knows better than Heathcliff about the level of this world. It's also because of this that Heathcliff can't believe that there's a player who can do what Wu Yan did. It's not that Heathcliff didn't think that Wu Yan made use of his USB stick that he forgot to fix. But the truth is, every time he heard that Wu Yan cleared a level by himself, he would check the system again and again, and the result was that nothing was wrong. For this reason, Heathcliff even used his administrator privileges to record the battle between Wu Yan and the boss and studied it repeatedly. In the end, Heathcliff only came to one conclusion. Wu Yan's strength is all due to his own combat experience and skills. Equipment, weapons, items and so on, they're all just support for him. In other words, his strength is all due to himself. It has nothing to do with his USB stick. After coming to this conclusion, Heathcliff was terrified because he didn't know what kind of life Wu Yan went through in the real world to have such terrifying combat ability. Wu Yan's strength is beyond the scope of a player. Ever since he entered SAO, this is the first time Heathcliff thought that he might lose to a player. Fortunately, there was only one such person. Otherwise, Heathcliff would have doubted the purpose of creating this world in the first place. Standing in front of Heathcliff, Wu Yan seems to have seen through Heathcliff's thoughts. Others might not know Heathcliff's true identity, but he did. It's not hard to guess Heathcliff's thoughts. Of course, Wu Yan didn't know that Heathcliff was trying to figure out his own origin and life. If he did, he would have laughed out loud and hid the infinite arms refinement so that Heathcliff could fill in the blanks with his own imagination. Wu Yan shrugged and said with a smile, "You don't look scared at all, Commander." Heathcliff calmed himself down and suppressed the various guesses in his heart. He blurted out, "You don't understand the thing that I'm really afraid of." Heathcliff straightened his back, leaned back on his chair and said to Wu Yan, "Even so, I still want to invite you to join the Knights of the Blood. Whether I'm scared or I know you won't join, I don't want to miss out on a super strong fighter like you. So Wu Yan-kun, think about it." Heathcliff didn't invite Wu Yan to increase the strength of the Knights of the Blood. For him, the Knights of the Blood is just a way to observe the movements of the players. Once he reaches the 100th floor, he will become the boss of the 100th floor and wipe out all the players he personally recruited. The real reason he invited Wu Yan is to keep an eye on Wu Yan's movements. After all, the person in front of him might be his biggest enemy. Wu Yan thought for a bit before he shrugged with a helpless look on his face. I'm sorry, but to be honest, I don't think joining the Knights of the Blood will help me in any way. So, I don't want to join the Knights of the Blood. Asuna opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the end she didn't say anything. She lowered her head and seemed to be thinking about something. Heathcliff seemed to understand that Asuna wouldn't consider joining his guild. His expression was a little helpless. However, Wu Yan's words were straightforward and realistic. The Knights of the Blood won't be able to bring any benefits to Wu Yan. He doesn't need power, he doesn't lack money, he can get his own equipment and weapons, and he's not weaker than anyone else. Is he weaker than any other guild? Heathcliff closed his eyes. He crossed his fingers and rested them under his chin. It was obvious that he was thinking about something. How about this? Heathcliff opened his eyes and he glared at Wu Yan with a provocative look he never had before. Let's duel. If I win, you'll join the Knights of the Blood. What? Asuna was shocked and stepped forward. Leader. Heathcliff raised his hand and interrupted Asuna. He stared at Wu Yan's back and he started laughing. What do you think? Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and stared at Heathcliff. Looking at the founder of Sao, Wu Yan closed his eyes and opened them again. What if I win? One condition. Heathcliff stood up and said with his hands behind his back. Until Sao is fully cleared, the Knights of the Blood will do everything they can to help you fulfill one of your conditions. That's a real deal. Wu Yan raised his head and laughed. Fine. I agree. Leader. Yankuan. Sina didn't know what to do. She just stood there and looked around nervously. Heathcliff nodded. A duel is a good plan. Only by facing Wu Yan in person can he figure out what's going on. If he wins, he can also achieve his goal. Why not? As for Wu Yan's combat power, Heathcliff didn't care about it at all. It would be ridiculous if he couldn't even defeat a player with the administrator's permission. Heathcliff was only afraid of Wu Yan's experience in the real world. There's nothing he's afraid of in this game world. What Heathcliff didn't know was that Wu Yan already knew his identity. Since Wu Yan knew Heathcliff's identity and that he has the administrator's permission, he agreed to Heathcliff's request because he's confident that he can beat him. Of course, in the game world, Wu Yan can't say he can win against the GM. However, he has a way to force Heathcliff to a draw or even force Heathcliff to surrender. Wu Yan didn't care about Heathcliff's condition at all. He just wants to see how far the creator of Sao can go against him with the administrator's permission. At the same time, he also wants to know more about Heathcliff. With his perfect memory ability, he can figure out Heathcliff's fighting style after fighting him. When he reaches the 100th floor, he'll have a better chance of beating Heathcliff. Players are not monsters. Aside from learning new skills, there is no way to change the way they fight unless they completely change themselves. This is also an opportunity for him. Chapter 648. Aincrad's 55th floor, Granzam Knights of the Blood's HQ. At the entrance, two figures walked out of the castle. However, their expressions and actions were completely different. One of them had a face full of anger and walked aggressively. That look was enough to scare away some timid people. The other one had a face full of helplessness as he followed behind the former and passed through the castle one after another. Wu Yan sighed helplessly. Asuna didn't even look at him as she continued walking. Her footsteps were so heavy that the sound of her footsteps could be heard as she stomped on the ground. Wu Yan sighed helplessly. I say, what are you angry about? Asuna stopped and turned around to look at Wu Yan. Her face was filled with anger. Her footsteps became heavier as she approached Wu Yan. Wu Yan was startled and quickly retreated. However, Asuna didn't give up and forced Wu Yan to take a few steps back. Idiot! 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 Asuna's voice was filled with anger as she approached Wu Yan. Do you know who our leader is? Do you think he only has the ability to lead? To be able to become the leader of the strongest guild, Knights of the Blood Oath? Do you think that without any fighting ability he would be able to sit there forever? Well, Wu Yan raised his hands and made a surrender gesture. Isn't that great? The stronger the opponent, the more interesting it is, right? Ha! Are you an idiot? Asuna gritted her teeth and said angrily. Leader's strength isn't normal. Not only does he have the unique skill, Sacred Sword, but he also has both offense and defense. There are no flaws and his HP has never dropped below the yellow color. His strength has completely exceeded the game's balance. He's not even in the same dimension. I've heard a lot about Heathcliff's unique skill, Sacred Sword. Wu Yan pressed Asuna's shoulder and pushed her back a little. His strength is not something normal players can compare to. He can even solo some of the stronger bosses, but do you think my strength is the same as other players? Asuna was stunned. She suddenly remembered that the person in front of her is the strongest player in SAO. He's the Fey swordsman who cleared nearly 20 floors of Aincrad all by himself. Asuna's expression became a lot better, but she was still worried about her leader's duel with Wu Yan. She didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe her leader can defeat Wu Yan and break Wu Yan's unbeatable record. Or maybe Wu Yan can defeat her leader and break his record of never dropping below yellow HP. No matter which side wins, it's a great honor. At the same time, no matter which side loses, the impact on SAO will be huge. What will happen in the end? Wu Yan rolled his eyes when he saw Asuna's mixed expression. Don't think too much about it. There are still 3 days until the duel, don't worry about it. Be careful, you might lose all your hair. You won't lose your hair in SAO, it will grow back even if you cut it. Asuna muttered softly. If you don't change your appearance in real life, you won't change your appearance in SAO. Yes, yes, yes. Wu Yan walked past Asuna and walked out of the room. That's why you didn't get fat, it's good news for you. What did you say? Asuna turned around and ran behind Wu Yan. I'm not a foodie. Then who was the one who ate 2 burger steaks? Even I only ate 1, you little foodie. I was just hungry. You don't have to eat that much even if you're hungry. Are you going to say you were hungry for 2 to 3 months? That's right. That's right. I was starved for 2 to 3 months. Is that so? Wu Yan stopped abruptly. Asuna couldn't react in time and she rammed into his back. Wu Yan turned around and he smiled at Asuna. He reminded her. If I'm not mistaken, I was only a month old at the time. Asuna froze on the spot. Milady, did you not only starve for a month in SAO but also in the real world? Wu Yan looked at Asuna with a strange expression. It was as if he was looking at a god who just escaped from a refugee camp. What a sad life, you must have to starve for a month and still be able to survive. Wu Yan teased. You bastard. Asuna closed her eyes and clenched her fist. She slowly raised her hand and her face turned red. Asuna didn't know if it was because of anger or embarrassment. He glanced at Asuna, who was scratching her head like a monkey because of him. Wu Yan quickly stopped himself from teasing her. He didn't want her to get angry out of humiliation. Who knows if she'll draw her sword on him or something. At that moment, Speechless changed the topic. Well, it must be because I'm too good at cooking that Miss Asuna lost her composure. Asuna bit her lips and shouted. Don't be too proud. That's because SAO was still in its early stages, and the skills of a chef weren't developed yet. Now my cooking skills are definitely better than yours. This time Wu Yan's interest was piqued. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked down at Asuna. My cooking skills were already good a year ago. Now my proficiency is almost maxed out. I've almost learned all the skills. How can you be so confident? What's so great about you? What's so great about that? Asuna raised her head proudly. My cooking proficiency is almost maxed out too. Wu Yan flinched and he was surprised. That fast? Of course. Asuna showed a beautiful smile. She straightened her back and put her head in front of Wu Yan. That's why I won't be worse than you. That might not be the case. Wu Yan poked at her with his finger as if he was teaching her a lesson. The proficiency of the cooking skill is only related to the ingredients that can be processed. Real cooking still requires one's own understanding and the matching of ingredients. The choice of sauces, seasonings, and other ingredients is also very important. Your cooking skill proficiency can catch up to mine, but it doesn't mean that your cooking skill can catch up to mine. Huh? Are you saying my cooking is bad? Asuna's temper flared. Of course your cooking is good. Wu Yan grinned and continued in an infuriating tone. With my recipes, you can become a master even if you're a noob. Wait, I can't pretend I didn't hear that. Asuna said loudly, Your recipe is just an introduction for me. Most of the dishes I make are my own, they're not in your recipe. Introductory? Wu Yan's face twitched. The cookbook was made within a month of SAO's launch. Back then his cooking skills in the game weren't that high, so the level of his cooking skills wasn't that high. Compared to his cooking skills in the real world, the difference is like heaven and earth. Nevertheless, it's still better than the average chef's cooking skills. But Asuna said it's as good as a beginner's guide. That's intolerable. Since you're going to put it that way. Wu Yan inhaled deeply and he continued. Asuna looked at him with a shocked expression. Let's duel. No way. Asuna couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Her face showed a little panic. It's just cooking, that's right. It's cooking. Wu Yan clenched his fist. Let's duel with cooking. Cooking duel? Asuna froze for a second, then her interest was piqued. She put her hands on her waist. You'll regret this. You'll kneel under my table. Thus, a different kind of duel unfolded just like that. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile users, please go here. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window, quick update, remember. Chapter 649. Aincrad, 22nd floor. In the southwest region there was a forest, a very beautiful forest. The trees are arranged in rows with a small path as the center. The trees are arranged neatly in all directions. Even though it's a forest, there's a sense of rhythm to it. It's as if someone is treating this place like a chess game and the trees are the chess pieces. They're arranged in a beautiful pattern. It's like the crystallization of art. It's breathtaking. In addition to the forest, there were also hills, lakes, and villages. They complemented each other and complemented each other, forming a very beautiful picture. If someone who knew how to appreciate it came here, then he would realize that this place could no longer be called an area, but a piece of art, a paradise, an ideal that could never be reproduced in the real world. With the forest, hills, and lakes as companions, the people who live here will feel peace and happiness from the bottom of their heart. One has to admit that this kind of scenery can only be found in a game world like SAO. In the original work, Kirito also fell in love with this place during the later stages of SAO. He brought his loved one here for a vacation. From this, one could tell how beautiful this place was. Now this place is Wu Yan's residence. Wu Yan is a lone wolf. He's always been that way. Other than going out on missions with a few acquaintances from the Moonlit Black Cats, Wu Yan has always been alone. He's never even formed a team. After he became famous, he became even more popular. Famous people were annoyed by noise the most. The same goes for Wu Yan. If he were to live in a town, then with his fame, even if he were to go out at night, he would still be found out sooner or later. If that's the case, then trouble would follow. So, this tranquil and beautiful place became Wu Yan's best choice for a place to stay. After clearing the 21st floor, Wu Yan continued. Wu Yan spent a lot of effort to find this place. He spent a lot of money to get this place to stay with him for a year. Although he's been living alone in this place for a year, Wu Yan didn't feel bored or lonely because of the beautiful environment. Instead, he fell in love with this quiet, peaceful, and beautiful place. Wu Yan made up his mind that this place will be his residence until the end of his time in SAO. There won't be any changes. Today he finally has his first guest in this place. Wu Yan is already familiar with the surroundings, so he didn't feel anything special. However, Asuna, who came here for the first time, couldn't hide her excitement. She looked around at the beautiful surroundings and she lost herself in the beauty of the place. Wu Yan glanced at Asuna, who couldn't take her eyes off the surroundings. He smiled. When he first came here, he wasn't any better than Asuna. After all, this place is too beautiful. Wu Yan has been to many worlds, but none of them can compare to this place. Maybe Fantasy Village can compare to this place, but Wu Yan hasn't been there yet. Since Asuna doesn't have her own place yet, she's still living in the Knights of the Blood's HQ. Therefore, the cooking duel between the two was held in Wu Yan's house. Originally, Wu Yan didn't want to bring Asuna here. In the original work, this is the place where Asuna and Kirito stayed as newlyweds. Now that he's bringing Asuna here, Wu Yan had a strange feeling. Subconsciously, he didn't want to bring Asuna here, but they can't go to the Knights of the Blood's HQ for a cooking duel. In the end, Wu Yan had no choice but to accept his fate. Unlike Wu Yan, Asuna is curious about Wu Yan's residence. This is SAO's most mysterious and most powerful player's residence. No one has been able to find it in the past year. It's only natural for Asuna to be curious about this place. She didn't expect this place to be so beautiful. She was instantly captivated by the environment. The path in the forest was made of wooden planks. The two walked along this wooden path for quite some time. After 15 minutes, the end of the path appeared in their field of vision. In addition, there was a wooden villa located at the end of the path. That's Wu Yan's house. Looking at the wooden mansion getting closer and closer, Wu Yan chuckled and said to Asuna, "I'm honored to have you as the first guest here." First guest? Asuna reluctantly withdrew her gaze from her surroundings and looked at the mansion in front of her with a surprised expression. "You've never brought anyone here before?" I've never," Wu Yan said. "This is the only place where I feel safe. If the news that I live here spreads out, this place will never be peaceful. I don't want to disturb this peaceful place." Asuna nodded in agreement. If she was in Asuna's shoes, she would have the same idea. She wouldn't want to disturb the peace and tranquility of this place. They walked along the path until they reached the end of the path. After passing through a small staircase in front of the mansion, the two arrived at the entrance. Wu Yan walked to the entrance before Asuna. He pushed the door open and gestured for Asuna to enter. "Welcome to my house. I'm sorry to disturb you." Asuna was a little nervous. It seems like this is the first time she entered someone's house. She looked around for a while before entering. The living room of the mansion isn't very big. It's only a little bigger than a normal family's living room. However, it has everything you need. There's a sofa, a table, a potted plant, and some small furniture. It's very homey. In the innermost corner of the mansion, there's a complete kitchen. It's obvious that the owner put a lot of effort into this place. There were several windows that were about the height of a person. Warm sunlight shone into the hall from outside the windows. A gentle breeze blew the curtains. Although the layout was simple, it was unexpectedly warm. It made people who saw this scene unconsciously feel warmth flowing through their hearts. It was very moving. Asuna clasped her hands together and raised them in front of her chest. She's enchanted by this place. There's no doubt that she's obsessed with this place. She looked around the living room and stopped at the window. Even from here, Asuna can see the beautiful lake, the rolling mountains, and the blue sky. In the distance, the labyrinth leading to the next floor looked like a giant pillar reaching into the sky. Together with the lake, the mountains, and the blue sky, Asuna felt for the first time that the tower was just as beautiful as the one she was looking at. "It's so beautiful. So beautiful." Asuna couldn't help but exclaim. When she regained her senses, she was already standing by the window, admiring the heavenly scenery. She felt like she wouldn't be able to leave if she stayed here any longer. "What do you think? Not bad?" Wu Yan changed into a collared short-sleeved shirt and a pair of casual pants. He sat on the sofa and smiled at Asuna. He's very pleased with her current expression. In the beginning, Wu Yan put in a lot of effort to decorate this place. Not only did he spend a lot of money, he also gave up 3 days of leveling time. Even though he never brought anyone here before, Wu Yan felt refreshed when he saw someone who knew how to appreciate this place. For the first time, Asuna didn't disagree with Wu Yan. She nodded her head repeatedly. She didn't seem to have any awareness that a war was about to begin. She also didn't have any intention of fighting against her enemy. She was so immersed in this environment that Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, girls are emotional creatures. A beautiful environment can conquer their hearts. Chapter 650. Asuna averted her gaze from the beautiful scenery outside the window and looked at Wu Yan, who was sitting on the sofa in casual clothes. She pursed her lips and sat across from him. She stared at Wu Yan with her chestnut-colored eyes. Wu Yan raised his cup uncomfortably under Asuna's scrutinizing gaze. He took a sip of his homemade black tea and looked around. Asuna couldn't help but chuckle. Asuna stretched her body and leaned back on the sofa as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. "Oh, so you're not a loner after all, loner?" Wu Yan paused his hand and looked at Asuna with a strange expression. "I'm curious how you came to that conclusion." Asuna rolled her eyes and scolded. "The first time we met, you didn't even exchange a few words before walking away. After the boss cleared the first floor, you left a cookbook and everyone else behind and walked away on your own as well. For the past year you've been traveling alone. Don't you think you're a loner?" Wu Yan choked and retorted. "That's not a loner, right? It's normal for people to not talk much when they meet for the first time. It's not like they know each other that well." It's already very nice of him to give her a cookbook. As for loners, I'm not the only loner. That's why they are known as loners. Asuna pointed at Wu Yan with a firm tone. You're the same. Hey, don't make it sound like I'm a loner. Wu Yan said with a bit of dissatisfaction. I've dealt with people before, okay? Then please tell me. Asuna puffed up her chest and went straight to the bullseye. Have you dealt with more than 10 people? Huh. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow and looked at Asuna with a bit of uncertainty. How do you know there aren't 10 people? By guessing? That's right. Asuna blinked. It's just a guess. Did I say anything wrong? Huh. Wu Yan laughed dryly, then sighed and said awkwardly, What's wrong with that? Seeing Wu Yan's compromising look, Asuna smiled triumphantly, turned her head and looked out the window. However, now my impression of you has changed. Thank you so much. Wu Yan rolled his eyes at Asuna. Asuna placed a teacup in front of her and poured a cup of black tea into it. She didn't hold back and drank from the cup. Then he closed his eyes in satisfaction and looked at the black tea in the cup with joy. It smells so good. Asuna leaned her head closer to Wu Yan. What is it made of? Leaves from mangrove trees and some juice from tricolored flowers. Asuna's cup was once again filled with black tea. If you like it, you can take some back later and I can give you the recipe. Asuna quickly nodded as if she was afraid Wu Yan would change his mind. She drank another cup of black tea and said with emotion, I thought you were a loner. I didn't expect you to know how to enjoy life. Of course. Wu Yan looked out the window and said, Only when I'm at home. That's when I feel like I'm alive. Asuna was stunned. Then she went silent. Feeling alive. Asuna murmured with an unknown emotion. She glanced at Wu Yan with a complicated look in her eyes. For a long time her priority was to conquer Asuna, and this was the first time she felt something like this. She felt like she was alive. So this person in front of her has been living in this world for a long time, and he's much happier than she is. Wu Yan sensed the change in Asuna's mood and the atmosphere became heavy. He scratched his cheek and changed the topic. Well, it's about time to start. Wu Yan stood up from the sofa and looked directly at Asuna's face. Asuna's gloomy mood instantly disappeared and her spirits were lifted. She stood up and raised her head with high fighting spirit. Come at me. You're full of confidence. Wu Yan shook his head and walked to the kitchen. I hope you'll still have this fighting spirit later. Fighting spirit? I'll always have it. After entering the kitchen, Wu Yan glanced at Asuna, who has changed into casual clothes and an apron. He swiped his hand across the air and opened his personal interface. He tapped a few times and ingredients appeared on the table out of thin air. There's meat, vegetables, seasonings and so on. There's a wide variety of ingredients, and it's not any less than what you would find in a restaurant. Asuna was stunned. She shrieked when she saw the shiny ingredients on the table. Wu Yan jumped in fright when he saw her. What are you doing? These. Asuna's hand trembled as she picked up one of the plates. She was flattered. These ingredients, aren't they all rare ingredients? Oh. You're making a fuss because of this? Wu Yan glared at Asuna. What's there to be surprised about? It's not like these are OP equipment or weapons, they're just ingredients. You. Asuna turned her head around and gritted her teeth. These ingredients are as expensive as high-level equipment. Do you know that? I know. Wu Yan said, but he didn't seem to care. I didn't buy these ingredients, I got them myself. What's there to be surprised about? All of them. Asuna was shocked. She pursed her lips as if she couldn't accept the truth. Really? Why don't I have such good luck? You must have cheated somehow. If that's the case, then I'll just get S-rank rare ingredients. Wu Yan shook his head and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I've been hunting for ingredients for so long, but I've never gotten an S-grade ingredient. Asuna rolled her eyes at Wu Yan and snorted. I don't know if anyone in SAO got an S-rank ingredient. If you got one, then you're cheating. What are you talking about? Wu Yan turned his head away. I'll get one sooner or later anyway. I'm looking forward to it. Asuna didn't take Wu Yan's words seriously. Wu Yan took out a kitchen knife from his inventory and pointed it at Asuna. Okay, I'll pay for today's ingredients. You can choose what you want. Really? Asuna excitedly took out a kitchen knife and looked at the ingredients eagerly. I've never cooked with such precious ingredients before. After today's meal, I'm sure my cooking proficiency will increase a lot. Then you'll have to thank me. Yes, yes, yes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Then they began to attack. The cooking process in SAO was very simplified, and it didn't take much time to cook a meal. For example, all you needed to do was to touch the ingredients with a kitchen knife, and the ingredients would be cut automatically. You didn't need to control the heat at all because the kitchen utensils here had a timer function. All you needed to do was to set the timer in advance. This kind of cooking process would lose control of knife skills, heat control and the like. The taste would drop by a few levels, but it wouldn't drop by too much. At the very least, using Wu Yan as an example, with his current cooking proficiency he would be able to perform at least half of his real-world level. Suna is also very talented in cooking. You can't see the difference in the knife and the temperature in SAO, but she's very good at choosing ingredients, seasoning and so on. The entire cooking process is smooth and smooth. Her proficiency is comparable to Wu Yan's. She has the demeanor of a chef. The two's figures constantly overlapped in the kitchen. They were busy working together and they looked like a warm family. They looked like husband and wife. The two didn't notice this at all. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window. Quick update, remember. Chapter 651. On the dining table in the hall, delicious-smelling dishes were placed one after another, covering the entire table. At a glance, the saliva-inducing light smoke filled the entire hall. Even though the smoke was emitted from the windows, it would soon be replaced by new smoke. Anyone who saw this scene would definitely drool and have a great appetite. They didn't even look at the dishes on the table, they just stared at each other. Electric currents flashed through their eyes as they stared at each other. It was as if a storm was brewing. Those who didn't know what was going on would think that these two had some kind of grudge against each other. At some point the two of them spoke at the same time. 12. 9. The two numbers came out of their mouths at the same time, and when the other person heard it, their expressions changed. Wu Yan smiled proudly, while Asuna's face was filled with unwillingness. Humph. Asuna snorted and said, "The number of dishes isn't the deciding factor. The most important thing is the taste of the dishes." You can't say that. Wu Yan of course wouldn't let Asuna erase his victory so easily. Sometimes the number of dishes is also very important. If it can't satisfy the other person's stomach, then it's useless no matter how good it is. Cooking exists for the sake of filling one's stomach. You just cooked 3 more dishes than me, what's the big deal? At least this proves that I beat you. No way. The deciding factor is the taste of the dishes. Then I'll count it as my victory. You bastard, I'll definitely be the winner later. Wrong. If I can beat you once, then I can beat you twice. I won't let you continue being so arrogant. Oh? Is that so? You'll admit defeat later. After a round of verbal sparring, the two of them no longer only had electric currents colliding, even the background was covered in flames. A volcano rose between them and erupted, indicating the intensity of the battle between Wu Yan and Asuna. In that case, Asuna placed her 9 dishes in front of Wu Yan. His gaze was fixed on Wu Yan. Let me say this first. You must give a fair evaluation. If you have personal feelings, I will be angry. Wu Yan rolled his eyes. Do I look like such an unreasonable person? Caesar. He threw out a sentence that was neither painful nor itchy. Asuna handed the cutlery to Wu Yan. Wu Yan took it and sat down, looking at the fragrant 9 dishes in front of him. At least from the looks of it, Asuna's cooking was very attractive. Using his knife and fork, Wu Yan picked up a piece of meat that was dripping with a tempting sauce. He glanced at it and put it into his mouth. Then he closed his eyes and began to chew seriously. On the other side, Asuna's expression showed a hint of nervousness, which surprised her. What was she nervous about? Could it be that she was worried about his opinion? No. That's impossible. I'm just nervous about the result. Yes, that's right. Wu Yan didn't know about Asuna's inner turmoil. He swallowed the food in his mouth and opened his eyes. He looked at the dish with a surprised expression. How is it? Asuna stuttered and held her breath. She didn't know if she was anxious or nervous. It's surprisingly delicious. Ah, really? Asuna's face lit up with a smile. She sighed in relief. This inexplicable feeling scared her. She cursed in her heart for a moment before she calmed down. Wu Yan tasted Asuna's dish again. He praised while eating. This tastes good. The sauce is also very good. What is it made of? Me, Asuna giggled and said in a mischievous manner, I made it myself and it's the only place you can eat it. No one else has ever eaten it except for you, so what do you think? Aren't you honored? How is it? Yes. Wu Yan brushed her off in an annoyed manner before he started tasting the other dishes. Well, it's really good. Of course, the ingredients are also good. It's a rare ingredient after all. There's a certain level of foundation to it. Plus, it's specially made so the taste is a lot better. Asuna didn't deny it. After all, rare ingredients were very precious. She rarely used rare ingredients in her cooking, and even if she did, it was very limited. Not to mention, all of her dishes were made with rare ingredients, which was unimaginable in the past. Sitting across from Wu Yan, Asuna watched as Wu Yan tasted her dishes. Her expression softened. She rested her chin on one hand and smiled. Her heart melted as she watched Wu Yan eat. It didn't take long for Asuna's 9 dishes to be eaten by Wu Yan. The smile on Asuna's face grew wider and wider. She couldn't hide her joy. How is it? My dish. Asuna raised an eyebrow and hooked her finger at Wu Yan provocatively. It's not personal. Wu Yan closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. 90 points. Huh. Asuna puffed up her cheeks. How come it's only 90 points? It's fine. Those with culinary skills tend to have high standards. The higher the cooking skill, the higher the standards. Wu Yan leaned to the side and he continued. 90 points is already not bad. Asuna turned her head and muttered. At least you have a reason. The conditions are the same. Aren't you a chef too? Wu Yan shook his head and chuckled. Ma, now it's my turn. Wu Yan stood up and cleaned up his empty plate before placing his dishes on the table. He said this while placing his plate down. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. It's a bit cold, the taste will definitely drop. It's still steaming. Asuna smiled. If it's not completely cold, the taste won't fade much. I don't care, I'm confident I can beat you even if it's cold. You're just bragging. Wu Yan's words became more and more hollow as he placed his dishes on the table. In the end, Asuna didn't say anything because she didn't have time to talk. She focused all of her attention on the dishes in front of her. Placed in front of Asuna were 12 dishes that could be called works of art. They were placed on a very ordinary plate, but the dishes weren't as simple as the ones on the plate. Instead, they were arranged into exquisite patterns as if they were engraved on the plate. It was a stunning sight to behold. Wisps of steam rose from the exquisite combination of dishes. The rich aroma coupled with the visual impact of the dishes made Asuna's mouth water. If she were to try the taste as well, Wu Yan's lips curved up when he saw Asuna staring at the dishes. What's wrong? You admit defeat? Asuna was startled, and when she came back to her senses, she blushed and turned her head away. I won't admit defeat. It's just a little prettier. The important thing is, I know the taste. Wu Yan grinned. Then why don't you try it, Vice Leader? Fine, I'll try it. As if in a fit of pique, Asuna picked up a piece of delicious meat with her fork and put it in her mouth. Asuna's eyes widened as soon as she took a bite. Wu Yan snickered with confidence. What do you think? Are you convinced? No, I'm not. Asuna tried to hold back her tears. Don't forget. Wu Yan interrupted her and looked straight into Asuna's eyes. You don't have personal feelings. Asuna whimpered. She looked at Wu Yan with teary eyes. She swallowed another piece of meat and she whimpered unwillingly. 100 points. The winner was decided. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window. Quick update, remember. Chapter 652. In the end, the winner of the cooking competition was Wu Yan, the cheater with the cooking expert ability. She turned her anger into appetite and she gobbled up all 12 dishes Wu Yan put on the table. She ate until she collapsed on the sofa and couldn't stand up anymore. She's like a child. Wu Yan found this funny and annoying at the same time. He didn't know what to say, but he could only sigh in his heart. You're a foodie. Asuna wanted to refute, but the words that came out of her mouth turned into a painful moan. She collapsed on the sofa again. Wu Yan smiled bitterly. If you can't eat that much, why force yourself? Wu Yan sighed. You won't die from overeating in SAO, but you can't hide the feeling of overeating. Aren't you afraid that you'll feel uncomfortable? I just can't accept it. Asuna raised her hand and snorted. I can't believe I lost to a man in a cooking competition. Oh? Surprisingly, you're a housewife. Wu Yan smiled. Looks like you're a married woman. Asuna glared at Wu Yan and sat up. Wu Yan helplessly shook his head when he saw how tired she looked. He poured a cup of black tea and pushed it in front of Asuna. Have some black tea, it should help with digestion. Asuna frowned. Her stomach was so full that she didn't want to stuff any more food into her stomach. However, she still raised the cup in front of her and took a sip. At this time, the sky outside the window gradually dimmed and night began to fall. From afar, the blue sky slowly faded away and was replaced by dusk. Looking out the window, the shadows of the trees in the forest are elongating. The lake's surface is changing color. Little dots of light reflected off the surface of the lake, moving up and down with the ripples of the water. Some dots of light flickered from time to time. The lake looked like it's late in the evening. It made people's thoughts wander. Wu Yan and Asuna sat opposite each other on the sofa. Both of them didn't speak. They turned their heads to the window and watched the scenery outside slowly change. They were immersed in the scenery, enjoying this rare moment of tranquility. Neither of them broke the silence. The evening sun shone on their faces, illuminating their expressions. Gradually, the black tea is getting less and less, the dusk is fading away. Not long after, the curtain of night finally fell completely. The forest is quiet at night. The lake is still rippling, but the fluorescent light on the surface of the lake is enough to calm one's mind. Alcrat's night is also filled with stars. It's like the Milky Way. It's a beautiful scene. Unfortunately, there's no moon. Asuna's eyes flickered as she looked up at the night sky. She held the cup of black tea in her hand, but she didn't drink it. After a long time, Asuna finally spoke. Thank you for today. Wu Yan calmed down when he heard Asuna's voice. He smiled helplessly at Asuna. You've been thanking me all day, Vice Leader. Just call me Asuna. Asuna rolled her eyes at Wu Yan and said with a complicated tone. It's been a long time since I've been so fulfilled. Fulfilled? Wu Yan poured a cup of black tea and asked. Aren't you known as the ghost of strategy? You've been on the front lines, isn't that fulfilling? That's that kind of life. Asuna lowered her head, hiding her expression in the shadows. It's not fulfilling at all. Is that so? Wu Yan glanced at Asuna and said. I think it's okay. Asuna was stunned. She raised her head in surprise. She couldn't believe Wu Yan would say something like that. No matter what kind of life it is, it's still life. Wu Yan sighed and looked into Asuna's eyes. Forcing yourself to live is meaningless. You can only enjoy life when you face it. Enjoy. Asuna repeated the word with a mocking tone. How can this kind of life be considered enjoyment? That's why I said you're forcing yourself to live. Wu Yan looked at Asuna with a meaningful gaze. At least this is the world we live in. Only people can adapt to the world will never adapt to people. I'm sure you understand that. Asuna opened her mouth. She mulled over it for a bit before looking at Wu Yan. Don't you hate this world? Hate. Hate. Wu Yan shook his head. I might be annoyed, but I'll never hate it. After all, even though this is an imaginary world, its beauty still exists. Wu Yan looked out of the window and said to Asuna. Asuna, can you really hate this kind of scenery? Asuna was silent. She held the cup in her hand tightly. Wu Yan smiled warmly and said. You haven't found your beauty yet. When you find your beauty, you'll realize that even though this world is cruel, you won't want to lose your life here. My beauty? Asuna couldn't help but ask. Can I find my beauty too? I think you'll have it sooner or later. Her voice sounded a little misty. Wu Yan shook his head and smiled. Actually, a girl's beauty is much easier to find than a boy's. For example, love. Love. Asuna raised her head, the sadness on her face disappeared. She stared at Wu Yan with her eyes wide open. She raised her voice and blushed. She turned her head away shyly. Don't do that. Asuna pushed her hand away uncomfortably. Don't do that. Wu Yan tilted his head and he looked at Asuna with a confused look. What do you mean don't do that? Don't do that. Don't you think it's too early to talk about love? Asuna sneaked a glance at Wu Yan. Strictly speaking, it's only been a day since we started talking. Huh. Wu Yan didn't understand what she was trying to say. However, when he saw Asuna's dodgy eyes, he recalled what Asuna and himself said. Wu Yan's face turned red and he started blushing. Ha ha. Ha. The sudden laughter startled Asuna. When she saw how Wu Yan is clutching his stomach while laughing, Asuna's anger flared up for some reason. What are you laughing at? Bang, bang. Ha ha. Wu Yan laughed until tears came out of his eyes. He waved his hand at Asuna with difficulty. Although he tried to control his laughter, it still reached Asuna's ears. Asuna was furious. She gritted her teeth when she saw Wu Yan laughing. She felt like she was a clown trying to please Wu Yan. She couldn't take it anymore. I. Asuna's voice trembled. She stood up and threw herself at Wu Yan. I'm going to bite you to death. Wu Yan was shocked when he saw Asuna throwing herself at him. He quickly stood up and wanted to do something, but Asuna already threw herself in front of him. She pinned him down on the sofa, grabbed his hand and bit it. Ouch. What are you doing? Wu Yan screamed when he felt the pain on his arm. He started to shake his arm in panic. Are you a dog? Let go of me. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Wu Yan tried to shake his arm, Asuna didn't let go. Instead she bit harder. Wu Yan's face twisted in pain. Let go of me, Asuna. Wu Yan cried. Oh, doesn't block this type of attack, it hurts, let go of me. Asuna raised her head and looked at Wu Yan. Her chestnut-colored eyes flashed with a hint of cunning. Then she bit him again. With a scream, Wu Yan's HP started to drop. To be continued. If you like this novel, you are welcome to vote for it. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile users, please go here. Wondrous Brush Pavilion, no pop-up window, quick update. Chapter 653. Aincrat's 55th floor. Granzum is a bit different today compared to the usual. As a large city, Granzum was usually bustling with activity. Not only did the NPCs act in a fixed pattern every day, but the players were also active in various areas of the city, setting up stalls, completing quests, replenishing resources and purchasing items. The bustling scene was on full display. But today the bustling Granzum was even noisier than before. Not to mention the NPCs, even the players who had their own matters to attend to, such as setting up stalls and completing quests. Even the players who came out to purchase all sorts of items gave up on their original plans and headed in one direction. Their faces were filled with excitement and their eyes were filled with passion as though they were groupies. The direction they're heading towards is the Knights of the Blood's HQ. Knights of the Blood's HQ, the plaza outside the gates. All the gamers who had rushed over huddled close to each other and formed circles. Their heads were connected together and pairs of arms were waving above their heads. Along with the clamor, cheers, the scene was a mess. Look at the number of people. There's at least 1,000 of them. At the front of the circle of people were the Knights of Blood Oath members, who were wearing the same guild uniform and armor, forming a circle as well. They kept the people outside the circle and did not allow them to take even half a step into the lightning pool. In the center of the circle was a square with a diameter of about 100 meters. At the center of the square stood two figures. The players who saw the two figures couldn't help but shout out loud. Ian. Heathcliff. The two stood facing each other. One black and one red figure stood out among the crowd. Their cloak and coat were fluttering in the wind. Who knows if it's because of the wind? Or maybe it's because of the crowd. They looked at each other from afar as if they're the only ones left in the world. Asuna stood in front of the Knights of the Blood's encirclement. She was gesturing at the Knights of the Blood's HQ members while saying something. It's obvious that she's the one who's maintaining order here. However, it seemed like Asuna was trying her best to maintain order at the scene. In fact, her chestnut-colored eyes that kept moving towards the center of the encirclement betrayed her heart. It's clear what she really cares about. Heathcliff looked around and shook his head when he saw the crowd around him. I'm sorry, Wian-kun. I'm sure you don't like this kind of noisy scene, right? Even Heathcliff himself didn't know how the news of their duel got out. But it's not hard to guess. After all, both Wu Yan and Heathcliff aren't ordinary people. One of them is the strongest player in the game. The other is the leader of the strongest guild in the game. No matter which side it is, they're both characters that most players look forward to. Now that two of them are about to duel each other, it's only natural that the crowd would go crazy. It's understandable that such a scene would happen. I don't like it. Wu Yan glanced around and said casually. But it's not the first time I've seen something like this. Oh? Heathcliff narrowed his eyes and said thoughtfully. It seems like Wu Yan-kun has a special identity in the real world. I'm just a nobody. Wu Yan shrugged. Not worth mentioning. You're being too humble. Heathcliff smiled. If you're just a nobody, then there's no one in this world who's famous. You said it yourself. Wu Yan looked at Heathcliff with a half-smile. He couldn't help but laugh when he saw the disbelief on Heathcliff's face. Sometimes people don't believe the truth. What can you do about it? Wu Yan is indeed a nobody in the real world of the Sword and Saber Dominion. He doesn't even have an ID card. Heathcliff assumed that Wu Yan must be someone important in the real world. Of course, he wouldn't believe Wu Yan's words. After all, he was once afraid of Wu Yan's background in the real world. Heathcliff swiped his hand across the air and opened his personal interface. He immediately sent a request for a duel to Wu Yan. At the same time, a window appeared in front of Wu Yan. Wu Yan glanced at Heathcliff and clicked, OK. He then chose the first strike mode. Under the first strike victory mode, as long as one party's HP bar dropped to yellow, it would be considered a loss. That party would only lose half of their HP and they would lose the duel. Between Wu Yan and Heathcliff, a countdown timer that looked like a fighting game appeared out of thin air. The countdown timer started ticking down slowly. Heathcliff's expression instantly became calm. He raised the shield in his left hand. There was a sword under the shield. The shield looked like a scabbard as Heathcliff slowly pulled it out. Wu Yan reached out and grabbed the hilt of Heaven Gazer. He silently pulled the sword out and pointed it at the ground. Compared to Heathcliff's calm expression, Wu Yan's expression was very calm. He even had a faint smile on his face. It was as if he wasn't facing a top player but a noob. Many people cheered for him. Of course, Wu Yan wasn't confident that he could face Heathcliff as if he was facing a noob. In fact, the situation was quite the opposite. He was the one who was at a disadvantage. Heathcliff's opponent wasn't an ordinary player. He was SEO's administrator, a GM. From a player's point of view, going against a GM is suicidal. Since when has a player ever defeated a GM? Even Wu Yan wouldn't dare to boast that he can beat Heathcliff, who has the authority of an administrator. But it's not like he doesn't stand a chance. In order to hide his true identity in public, Heathcliff wouldn't dare to use his administrator's authority. First of all, he couldn't use functions that directly affect others, otherwise his identity would be exposed. Secondly, he couldn't use invincibility functions either. Otherwise, everyone would be able to see through his disguise. The only function Heathcliff could use was to keep his HP bar above yellow, or to allow his actions to break through the system's restrictions in an emergency. In the past battles, Heathcliff had always used this function and it alone was enough. Heathcliff's HP wouldn't drop below half of his HP, which was another form of invincibility. In this case, when used in the first strike victory mode, Heathcliff was basically invincible. No matter what, the opponent couldn't force Heathcliff down to half of his HP, so how could they win? Wu Yan was in the same situation. No matter how strong he was, he had no chance of winning against Heathcliff as a player. However, as mentioned before, it wasn't like he was completely helpless. Wu Yan estimated that he would be able to force Heathcliff to a draw if he only used half of his invincibility. Plus, with some tricks, Heathcliff wouldn't be able to do anything to him even if he only used half of his invincibility. The end result was still very debatable. However, things always change according to plan. Wu Yan didn't know what would happen in this duel. He might really lose, and if he lost he would have to join Knights of the Blood. No one knew what the real result would be. Wonderful Brush Pavilion, no pop-up window, quick update, remember. Chapter 654. The sound of the countdown reverberated in the air and reverberated in all directions. Hearing the clear countdown sound, all the noise in the venue gradually died down. In the end, there was complete silence. Looking at the two figures standing opposite each other in the center of the arena, the crowd subconsciously slowed down their breathing. They didn't even dare to blink, afraid that they would miss the most exciting second, the most blood-boiling moment. No one doubted the degree of excitement of this duel because the two people standing there were definitely not ordinary people. The members of Knights of the Blood seemed to have forgotten that they were supposed to maintain order in the square. Asuna also clenched her fists and looked back and forth between the two. A trace of nervousness and worry could be seen in her eyes. As for who she was worried about, only she knew. A gust of wind blew across the square, causing the hair and clothes of the two people to flutter. The countdown had reached the last 10 seconds, and the atmosphere instantly became dead silent. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Thump. The countdown sound was louder than any other sound before, pushing the atmosphere of the square to its peak. In an instant, the two people standing opposite each other moved at the same time. After images suddenly flashed from where the two of them were standing. The two of them, who were originally 5 meters away from each other, instantly rushed in front of each other. Their gazes met and froze. Clang, the two swords collided violently, and the clear sound of weapons clashing rang out. A wave of air rolled up from the place where the two weapons collided, whistling and sweeping in all directions. Only at this time did the onlookers realize that the two of them were already facing each other. Sparks flickered at the point where the two weapons clashed. The two swords, one big and one small, fiercely collided with each other. The sound of friction like scraping glass could be heard one after another. Wu Yan and Heathcliff were in a deadlock with their swords in hand, but if you pay closer attention, you will notice that the two swords are in a deadlock. The two people who were in a deadlock have completely different expressions. Wu Yan's wine-red eyes stared straight at Heathcliff's somewhat ugly face. The corner of his mouth curled up and he let out a sneer. Then he suddenly exerted force on his sword. The heaven gazer pressed down on Heathcliff. He felt an unparalleled force coming from his sword, and with a muffled sound he was sent flying. The crowd around him exclaimed in surprise. Heathcliff gritted his teeth and steadied himself. He then looked at Wu Yan, who was standing opposite him with a sword in hand. His expression became slightly solemn. What a strong force, strength. Wu Yan smiled slightly. Heathcliff's pupils shrank. Wu Yan's figure quickly appeared in front of him. Only strength. As soon as his voice fell, a strong wind blew past Heathcliff's body. Heathcliff only had time to put his shield horizontally in front of him. A muffled sound rang out as a huge force directly hit Heathcliff's shield. Heathcliff was once again pushed back a few steps. As for Wu Yan, he had already raised his heaven gazer again and looked at Heathcliff with a smile. Heathcliff's expression turned ugly. Everyone saw that in the two exchanges Wu Yan was unharmed, but Heathcliff's HP bar was reduced by a small chunk. The first exchange of blows. Without a doubt he had the upper hand. Oh, the crowd cheered and cheered, offering the best cheers for this wonderful battle. So strong. Asuna murmured. Even the leader's defense couldn't completely block Yankun's damage. Yankun is really strong. Looks like I underestimated you. Heathcliff sighed. His face was tense. I didn't expect your strength and dexterity to be so high, and your reflexes are also so strong. I miscalculated. Wu Yan's eyes flashed and he said jokingly, Can I take it that you want to admit defeat? Haha. Heathcliff chuckled and placed the shield in front of him. No matter what, I'm still the leader of a guild. I won't admit defeat so easily. Then let's continue. Wu Yan licked his lips. Fight. Heathcliff hid his face behind his shield so that no one could see his expression. He stomped on the ground and charged forward at full speed. Wu Yan stopped smiling and swung heaven gazer. A blue light flashed from the sword and alerted Heathcliff. It was a sign that he was about to use a skill. Despite being cautious, Heathcliff still charged at Wu Yan with his shield. Wu Yan waited until Heathcliff was right in front of him before he swung heaven gazer. Heathcliff stared at the black greatsword that was swinging towards his shield. He knew that with Asuna's strength he would be the one at a disadvantage. That was why he chose to dodge the attack without hesitation. Heathcliff's charging posture suddenly changed. As if he was forcibly breaking the momentum, Heathcliff changed his direction and moved to Wu Yan's side. Heaven gazer brushed past his body and crashed into Wu Yan. Bang! A hand suddenly pressed against Heathcliff's shield, stopping Heathcliff's momentum completely. Wu Yan pushed his hand hard and the shield was knocked away, revealing Heathcliff's figure. At the same time, heaven gazer, which was glowing with the light of a skill, swung down towards Heathcliff's chest. With his shield knocked away, Heathcliff lost his balance and fell backward. Seeing the black greatsword rushing towards him, Heathcliff's expression changed for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. At the critical moment, Heathcliff's falling body suddenly stabilized. The shield that had been knocked away suddenly appeared in front of the heaven gazer, at an unimaginable speed. It was as if time had stopped except for Heathcliff's body. Seeing this, Wu Yan's eyes flashed with excitement. Bang! The great sword and the shield collided and then quickly separated. Wu Yan's eyes turned cold. He knew that it was impossible for a normal player to do what Heathcliff did just now. Heathcliff's body was about to hit the ground, but he suddenly stabilized himself and straightened his body. His shield also inexplicably accelerated. It was obvious that Heathcliff had broken the system's restrictions on his movements. Finally, he resorted to cheating. Wu Yan swung Heaven Gazer at Heathcliff. He swung Heaven Gazer at Heathcliff's shield. Wu Yan's arm moved at a strange speed as he channeled more and more power into the shield. Every power he channeled into Heathcliff's shield was comparable to the power he channeled into Heathcliff's shield. Bang! Heathcliff felt as if he had been hit by a giant beast. He couldn't even stabilize himself and was sent flying backwards. He only managed to get up after sliding a distance away. He looked at Wu Yan as if he was looking at a monster. That power just now was actually not your limit. Compared to you, I still have a long way to go. Wu Yan turned his body sideways. His eyes were cold, but there was a smile on his face. Commander Heathcliff, you were able to block my attack in that situation. Your attack speed is much higher than mine. Heathcliff stood up and looked at Wu Yan. So what do you plan to do? If your attack speed doesn't exceed mine, you won't be able to defeat me. I see. Wu Yan lowered his head slightly, then suddenly raised it again. Then I'll surpass your attack speed. Before Heathcliff could react, a sword appeared in Wu Yan's other hand. Heathcliff's pupils constricted violently. To be continued. If you like this novel, you are welcome to vote for it. Your support is my greatest motivation. Mobile users, please read it here. Wonderful Brush Pavilion, no pop-ups, quick updates. Chapter 655. Wu Yan wielded the Heaven Gazer and a sword of average length. He lowered his arms and looked at Heathcliff like a cheetah about to pounce on its prey. He lowered his body and looked at Heathcliff. Dual sword style. His deep voice echoed in the surroundings. It was so soft that it could be drowned out by any other sound, but everyone present, including Heathcliff and Asuna, heard it clearly. What? Dual sword style? Asuna called out in a silly manner. What's that? Second sword? Is there a dual sword user in SAO? Asuna couldn't help but laugh at herself. It's impossible to use dual swords in SAO, because the swords in SAO are not paired and each sword is unique. That is to say, if a player can equip two swords at once, it's equivalent to having an additional sword attribute bonus. This wasn't a joke. If an original 100 attack power was increased by 100 or more, it wouldn't be as simple as 1+1. In addition, there would also be an increase in attack speed and other attributes. At that time, the increase in strength would be on a completely different level. That's why dual sword users are impossible in SAO. However, the person in front of her is indeed equipped with two swords. Dual blade stream. Asuna stared at the two swords in Wu Yan's hands. She's trying to figure out if he's just holding the swords in his hands. Is it a skill? A skill that can equip two swords? Is there such a cheat-like skill in SAO? Thinking of this, Asuna suddenly remembered something and turned to look at Heathcliff. Isn't there such a thing? Wasn't Heathcliff's holy sword, a skill that combined both offense and defense, exactly the same type of skill? A unique skill. Asuna smiled awkwardly. No way. Unfortunately, Asuna's self-consolation was wrong. Dual sword style. It's a unique skill. It's a unique skill from the original work, Kirito. But now, dual sword style has become Wu Yan's unique skill. Wielding two swords, Wu Yan could clearly feel that the other sword's attribute has been transferred to his body, making his body much lighter. Even the strength of his arms has increased by quite a bit. He believes that his attack power and attack speed should have increased by a large margin. Dual sword style. Heathcliff also stared at Wu Yan's swords. I didn't expect you to have a unique skill as well. When the words unique skill came out, the players who were still trying to figure out why Wu Yan can wield dual swords instantly understood. Their expressions became more and more interesting as the crowd burst into an uproar. It's the second unique skill in SAO, dual sword style. Two players with unique skills appeared in front of them at the same time and they're dueling. The crowd of onlookers was boiling with excitement. Listening to the commotion around him, Wu Yan smirked and looked at the opposite side. You seem to be very surprised. You clearly have your own unique skill. Wu Yan wasn't surprised that Heathcliff knew about dual sword style. He designed this skill for the player with the fastest reaction speed in the game. In the original work, Kirito was the fastest player in SAO, so it's not surprising that he became the fastest player. After all, no matter how fast Kirito's reaction speed is, he's just a normal human. How can he compare to Wu Yan, who isn't a human? But judging from Heathcliff's reaction, it seems like he doesn't know that 2 blades is in his hands. It is indeed surprising. Heathcliff's expression seemed to have changed for a moment. A player with a unique skill is incomparable to a normal player. You're not a normal player to begin with, how can I not be surprised when you have a unique skill as well? Heathcliff didn't expect Wu Yan to be the one to get his hands on this unique skill. But it's also within reason. If the person in front of him didn't have a unique skill, then who else in SAO was qualified to have a unique skill? Don't be surprised, Commander Heathcliff. Wu Yan crossed his arms and raised his swords. There's more to come. Taking a step forward, a glint flashed in his eyes. Starburst airstream slash. Heathcliff's expression froze and he hurriedly raised his shield. Almost at the same time, a figure rushed in front of Heathcliff's shield, and in the next moment, countless sword shadows covered the sky and covered the earth as they violently attacked. Heathcliff immediately took a few steps back, trying to break free from the onslaught of swords. But while he was retreating, Wu Yan came at him and mercilessly slashed at Heathcliff's shield. Bang! 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 As the shadow swords landed on Heathcliff's shield one after another, Heathcliff's body trembled violently as he was forced to retreat. The powerful force of the shadow swords caused a small portion of his HP bar to drop. Even though the small portion of his HP bar couldn't be any smaller, the shadow swords continued to land on him. Over time his HP bar was reduced by more than half. With both swords in hand, Wu Yan closed his eyes and slashed at Heathcliff with the 2 swords. The sound of swords colliding with shield reverberated in the air. Wu Yan seemed to be immersed in this beautiful sword dance. He used infinite martial arts to execute Starburst airstream slash, in the best way at the best time, and with the most powerful technique. Not only that, but he also gained a lot of strength from the additional sword attribute. Heathcliff was pushed back again and again. His eyes were wide open and his teeth were clenched tightly. He almost lost his grip on the shield because of the powerful force. But Wu Yan's attack speed was so fast that if Heathcliff reacted in time he would suffer a fatal blow. So Heathcliff had no choice but to endure. Ah! Heathcliff shouted. He held his shield tightly but he couldn't stop himself from being pushed back. Finally he couldn't hold on any longer. Bang! The shield in his hand was knocked away in an instant, and a black greatsword came stabbing at Heathcliff's forehead. Bang! Heathcliff shouted again. He used his administrator privileges to break the system's restriction. The shield that was knocked away suddenly appeared in front of the Heaven Gazer, and blocked it. At this moment, another sword slashed at Heathcliff's neck from the other side. Heathcliff's expression changed. He had no choice but to break the system's restriction again and block Wu Yan's slash with his long sword. There was a loud clang and surprisingly there was also a cracking sound. Wu Yan and Heathcliff froze at the same time. Bang! Wu Yan's other sword cracked and shattered into pieces before disappearing into thin air. Teet! Wu Yan pursed his lips and jumped away, putting some distance between him and Heathcliff. Heathcliff gasped for breath and forced a smile. Looks like Wu Yan-kun's other weapon isn't ideal. Well, I guess I can't find a weapon that's as good as the Heaven Gazer, so I can only use this to make up the numbers. Wu Yan helplessly threw away the sword hilt and looked at Heathcliff with a smile. But Commander Heathcliff doesn't look too good either. With your current HP, you'll drop to yellow after one more hit from me, right? Heathcliff's expression darkened when he heard Wu Yan's words. He glanced at his own HP and then looked forward. His face was expressionless, but his heart was filled with helplessness. Heathcliff was caught between a rock and a hard place. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window. Quick update, remember. Chapter 656. Wu Yan's attack power was enough to break through Heathcliff's defense. With Heathcliff's current HP bar, even if he had a shield to block another attack from Wu Yan, his HP bar would drop to yellow. And the moment Heathcliff's HP bar dropped to yellow, he would lose, of course. Heathcliff had the administrator's permission to keep his HP bar from dropping to yellow. So even if he let Wu Yan attack him for a whole day, his HP bar wouldn't drop to yellow, let alone one attack from Wu Yan. But this wasn't enough to guarantee Heathcliff's victory. With so many people here, Anyone with a discerning eye can see that with his current HP bar, he won't be able to take a hit from Wu Yan. After one hit, his HP bar will drop to yellow. If he can take a hit from Wu Yan and his HP bar doesn't drop to yellow, then his identity will be exposed. However, if he didn't keep his HP above the yellow level, he would also lose the duel because his HP would drop to the yellow level after receiving the attack. So, Heathcliff was really stuck in a difficult situation. To get out of this situation, Heathcliff had two options. The first option was to clear Wu Yan's HP bar to yellow before Wu Yan attacked him. That way Heathcliff would win. However, Heathcliff clearly saw that Wu Yan's HP bar was full. From the start of the duel, Wu Yan was the one attacking him. Heathcliff, who was inferior to Wu Yan in terms of strength and speed, didn't even manage to land a single hit on Wu Yan. How could Heathcliff reduce Wu Yan's HP bar to half in one hit? If Wu Yan took one hit from Heathcliff and switched to another, then Heathcliff would lose. As for the second option, if Wu Yan can't hit him, he'll be the one attacking Wu Yan. This way Heathcliff can win. The problem was, how could Heathcliff, who was slower than Wu Yan, dodge Wu Yan's attacks? Neither of the two methods was suitable for this situation. That is to say, it was equivalent to having no other way. Heathcliff could also use his administrator privileges to modify his attack power and speed. He could either reduce the opponent's HP by half in one hit, or increase his speed to exceed the opponent's. This way he could use both methods. However, this method could not be implemented. With a single strike, he had defeated an opponent who was at the same level as him or even higher. Half of the opponent's HP was gone, even with top-notch equipment? Was that even possible? As long as Heathcliff used this method, there was no doubt that his identity would be suspected. As for the modification speed to surpass Wu Yan's level, the problem is the same as above, a person with better equipment than him. What reason did he have to be faster than him, much faster? Yet another way to expose myself. Of course, as an administrator, Heathcliff had many ways to win this duel, but none of these methods were suitable for public use. Once he used them, his identity would be exposed. Unless he didn't care about his identity being exposed, he couldn't use these methods at all. In other words, he wanted to make sure that no one would suspect him. There was almost no way to win this duel. Heathcliff had never thought that he would be forced into such a corner by a mere player. Aggrieved, truly aggrieved. However, Heathcliff also didn't want his identity to be exposed so soon. Even if he was suspicious, when the suspicion accumulated to a certain extent, he would be exposed. He would be exposed as well. Moreover, the guy in front of him wasn't a fool. If he used too many cheating methods, it would definitely arouse his suspicions. If that happened, his identity would be exposed, and Heathcliff didn't want that to happen. Poor Heathcliff thought that he had to keep his identity a secret, but he didn't know that his opponent had already known about his identity from the very beginning. Right now, not only Heathcliff, but the audience didn't think that Heathcliff had a chance of winning this duel. One of his HP bars was full, and the other could only last for one more hit. Furthermore, Wu Yan's dual sword style was like a storm, so there was no need to guess who would win this duel. Even the members of Knights of the Blood didn't think that their commander had a chance of winning, let alone the rest of the audience. The entire scene became silent as the two people in the center of the square became silent. Everyone's attention was on Heathcliff. Their eyes were filled with nervousness and anticipation. They were waiting for Heathcliff's next move, or perhaps they were waiting for Heathcliff to turn the tables around. Wu Yan didn't say anything. He just held the heaven gazer and stared at Heathcliff without moving an inch. However, Heathcliff knew that if he made any movement, this person would attack him. Heathcliff stared at the figure in front of him. His expression didn't change at all, but the emotions in his eyes kept fluctuating until... Sigh. Heathcliff sighed and relaxed his tense body. He sheathed his sword into his shield. Dual sword style is really strong. Heathcliff shook his head and smiled. If Wu Yankuan's weapon didn't run out of durability, I would have lost long ago. Commander Heathcliff, you're underestimating yourself. Wu Yan shrugged. Divine Sword is a unique skill. If my stats weren't higher than yours, I don't know what would have happened. You can say that I'm relying on the convenience of my equipment. Wu Yan was lying. How could he rely on his equipment when he had the strength and speed to surpass the current top players? Wu Yan's stats may be higher than the top players, but they aren't ridiculously high. The main reason for this is because of infinite arms refinement. It allows him to perfectly utilize the basic abilities of these stats to their limits or even surpass them. This is why there is such a clear difference. Without infinite armory, Wu Yan wouldn't be that much stronger than Heathcliff and Kirito. After all, there were many things in this world that required balance and fairness. Wu Yan only said that to give Heathcliff a way out. Heathcliff had already put away his weapon, so there was no doubt about it. Heathcliff looked at Wu Yan seriously and turned around. Wu Yan, the Fey swordsman, you really live up to your title as the strongest player. I admit defeat in this duel. As soon as he said that, the symbol of victory on the duel sign in the air pointed at Wu Yan's direction, informing everyone that Wu Yan is the victor of this duel. Oh, the players cheered as they congratulated the victor standing in the center of the stage. After today's battle, the mysterious Fey swordsman will enter the eyes of the players. The Fey swordsman's name Wu Yan will be etched into the hearts of the players. And along with that, the title of the strongest player. Even in his normal state he was able to defeat Heathcliff, who had a unique skill, not to mention the short-lived dual sword style that also had a unique skill. I'm afraid the entire SAO is going to be excited about the second unique skill in the game world. Wu Yan chuckled, put the Heaven Gazer back on his back and walked out of the duel with his back facing Heathcliff. Wherever he went, the players automatically made way for him and cheered for him to walk out of the duel. Heathcliff stared at Wu Yan's back. He didn't even acknowledge the arrival of the Knights of the Blood Oath. He rubbed his sword and shield as he muttered to himself. I'm looking forward to the duel with you. If you like this novel, you're welcome to vote for it. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile users, please go here to read. Wondrous Brush Pavilion, no pop-ups, quick updates. Chapter 657. Aincrad's 55th floor, Granzum. Inside a restaurant, Wu Yan and Asuna sat across from each other. The table in front of them was filled with all sorts of dishes. They didn't touch anything because they weren't in the mood to eat. To be more precise, one of them is spacing out while the other is looking around in annoyance. She kept sighing and sighing. Players filled up the restaurant one after another. There were even people queuing up at the entrance of the restaurant. Most people would think that the restaurant's business is booming because of the delicious food, but Wu Yan knew that they had an ulterior motive. Most of them only had a single drink in front of them. They looked more like they were drinking tea than eating. They kept sneaking glances in Wu Yan and Asuna's direction. When they got caught, they would look away and they would look back at Wu Yan and Asuna again. They looked like paparazzi, but they didn't look very professional. And the whispers of these people from time to time also revealed their purpose in doing so. Isn't that the Fey swordsman Wu Yan and the Flash Asuna? Why are the two of them together? Are they on a date? No way, the Fey swordsman just defeated the leader of the Knights of the Blood and Lady Asuna is the vice leader of the Knights of the Blood. Why would she go on a date with someone who defeated her leader? Are they here to get back at him? I think it's more like they're scouting for enemies. But why do I feel like they're on a date? No. Bible. Lady Asuna. Why would she go on a date with another man? That's the Fey swordsman Wu Yan, the strongest player in the game. Do you think he's a nobody? I bet Lady Asuna was impressed by Lord Wu Yan's strength. No way. Lady Asuna isn't that kind of person. What's going on? Good intentions. But Asuna-sama is so cute. Lord Wu Yan is also not bad. I say, do you dare to speak any softer? The corner of Wu Yan's mouth twitched as he listened to the whispers around him. His heart was about to explode. Asuna, on the other hand, was still in a daze. It seems like she didn't hear what they were saying. This made Wu Yan speechless. Don't tell me you brought me here to be watched by others? Wu Yan grumbled. Or do you want me to watch you daydream? Wu Yan grumbled. Asuna stared blankly at Wu Yan and murmured. He really won. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Are you that upset about my victory? It's not a shock. Asuna muttered. I just didn't expect that the regiment commander, who is usually regarded as invincible, would actually admit defeat. What can he do if he doesn't admit defeat? If the fight continued, I would still be the winner. It's not surprising that he admitted defeat. Of course, Wu Yan wouldn't tell Asuna the truth about the duel. This was the best outcome he could have hoped for. Otherwise, Heathcliff's identity might have been exposed. Even though the final battle might not be as early as in the original novel, the situation would still be out of Wu Yan's control. For Wu Yan, Heathcliff admitting defeat was the best outcome he could have hoped for. Asuna pursed her lips and looked at Wu Yan. Don't get too cocky. Even though you won in the end, It's not like you didn't break the leader's record of having his HP drop to yellow. Break his record of having his HP drop to yellow? If he doesn't want to, no one will be able to break his record in this lifetime. Wu Yan rolled his eyes and glanced around before sighing. Let's finish this quickly. I'm afraid I won't be able to take it if this continues. Asuna flinched. She finally realized how conspicuous her presence is. She didn't feel uncomfortable like Wu Yan did. She's used to this kind of situation, she's already used to it. Asuna took a sip of tea and said, "So what's the deal with that two-sword stream?" "What do you mean what's the deal?" Do you have any self-awareness?" Asuna put her hands on her waist. "That's a unique skill. It's a unique skill. No one can learn it except for the player who owns it. Do you want to just brush it off like that?" "Then what do you want me to do?" Wu Yan glared at Asuna. "Since it's a unique skill, do you think I'm supposed to spread the information about how to learn it? Or do you think other people will be able to learn it if I spread the information? You should at least tell me the origin of this skill." Asuna muttered in a low voice, "At least tell me the origin of this skill." "Well?" Wu Yan shrugged. "It's a skill I just acquired a while ago. I don't even know when it got there." Asuna bit her lip and glared at Wu Yan. "Why do you sound like you're talking about a cooking skill when you talk about such a powerful skill?" "Yes, two-sword stream is strong." Wu Yan smiled. "But so far there's no one that I can face with my dual sword style. Heathcliff is an exception." "What? You look so amazing." Asuna narrowed her eyes. "That's only for now. As the number of floors increases, solo players will gradually become more and more difficult. There will definitely be a limit. Sooner or later, forming a party will be the only way for players to clear the dungeon. Team up, huh?" Wu Yan's mind went blank for a split second. He quickly regained his composure, but Asuna noticed it. Her expression turned serious. Wu Yan didn't notice the change in Asuna's expression. "Let's talk about the future later. Maybe by then there will be someone who can team up with me. Don't make it sound like there isn't one." Asuna said. "It's not like no one wants to team up with you. At least for now, I'm still a solo player." Wu Yan said and finished the last bite of food on the table. "Okay, I'll leave now. It doesn't feel good to be surrounded by so many people." Wu Yan was about to stand up when a box appeared in front of him. "Asuna has invited you to join her friend list." Wu Yan flinched and he looked at Asuna with a surprised look. Asuna blushed and she hurriedly tried to explain herself. "Don't get me wrong, I just want to confirm if you're still alive." Wu Yan laughed when he saw how flustered Asuna was. He clicked, "Okay," and they joined each other's friend list. "Sure, I don't know why you're in such a hurry." Wu Yan rolled his eyes at Asuna. He waved goodbye to Asuna and he walked towards the door. "I hope you'll feel sad for me when I'm removed from your friend list." Wu Yan walked out of the cafeteria after saying that. "What the hell?" Asuna turned her head away in dissatisfaction. At the same time, an email arrived in front of Asuna and her eyes narrowed. There were only a few words on the email, but Asuna couldn't help but take it seriously. "We found the room where the boss is." "Finally found it." Asuna stood up and touched the hilt of her sword. She glanced at the direction Wu Yan left with a smirk on her face. "We, the clearers, will be taking the boss. Sorry, Yen-kun." Chapter 658. Walking out of a weapon shop, Wu Yan rubbed his forehead and sighed. Wu Yan has lost count of the number of weapon shops that have disappointed him. Now that SAO has developed to a certain stage, blacksmithing has also become a profession, and it's becoming more and more popular. The weapons crafted by the best blacksmiths were obviously much better than the weapons dropped from monsters. Some of the weapons could be upgraded by the blacksmiths, making them even more powerful. Therefore, if a player needed a weapon, they would not run to the wilderness or the labyrinth area to hunt for it. Instead, they would buy it directly from the weapon shops opened by other players. It's the same for Wu Yan. The weapons and equipment dropped by the monsters can't satisfy his needs. He needs to start looking for weapons and equipment from the life profession players. Of course, it's not that Wu Yan's equipment can't keep up with his needs. On the contrary, this set of equipment is a set of godly equipment that he has amassed over a long period of time, including Heaven Gazer. Although they have accompanied Wu Yan for quite some time, after many rounds of grinding and leveling, they have become the most suitable equipment for Wu Yan. Even their levels are higher than top players. With this set of equipment, as long as Wu Yan is willing to spend money to upgrade them, It won't be difficult for him to keep them with him until the end of SAO. In other words, Wu Yan doesn't have to worry about changing his equipment. This is Wu Yan's previous thought. It's true that his current equipment can keep up with his progress and meet his requirements. There's no need for him to change his equipment. Even if he waits, he can continue to upgrade them. However, what he's worried about right now isn't the equipment he's wearing, it's the problem of the other weapon. Wu Yan has spent a lot of money to upgrade the Heaven Gazer. It's definitely the strongest god weapon in the game right now. However, with the dual sword style, one Heaven Gazer can't satisfy Wu Yan at all. The last time he fought with Heathcliff, the Heaven Gazer's durability was depleted due to the lack of equipment. In the end, Heathcliff had to admit defeat. If Wu Yan had a second weapon comparable to the Heaven Gazer at that time, not only would his stats be greatly increased, he would also be much stronger than he was when he was using a cheap weapon. In the past, he never had to resort to using dual sword Ryu against an enemy, so he never thought about this problem. But now this problem has to be put on the agenda. Otherwise, if the weapon drops the chain at a crucial moment, that would be a huge joke. Since that day, Wu Yan has been planning to buy a suitable weapon. However, after so long, Wu Yan has visited almost every weapon shop on every floor, but he still hasn't found a suitable weapon. If it's not a problem with the blacksmith, it's a problem with the materials. Wu Yan hasn't been able to get a second weapon, and his dual sword style has been sealed. Fortunately, there's nothing that can threaten Wu Yan yet. Otherwise, Wu Yan would have to carry a bunch of cheap weapons around and replace them with a new one. He'll be a wasteful player. Suffering setbacks after setbacks, Wu Yan even had the idea of going straight to farming monsters to get a celestial weapon. If that's the case, it's not like there's no chance at all. But how long would he have to grind to get an ideal weapon? Wu Yan doesn't have that much patience. Wu Yan touched the hilt of Heaven Gazer on his back and pursed his lips. He opened his friend list and found Asuna's name. Wu Yan knows that Asuna has a friend who's a very good blacksmith. In the original work, Kirito got his second weapon from her. Before he found her, Kirito was just like Wu Yan. He's been struggling to find a second weapon. With Asuna's blacksmith friend's skill, it wouldn't be hard for her to make a god weapon with the right materials. However, Wu Yan didn't dare to click on Asuna's name to ask for her friend's location. It's not that he can't afford it, it's just that they haven't contacted each other since they became friends. Now that Wu Yan suddenly has to contact Asuna, Wu Yan felt awkward. It's as if he's afraid of hearing Asuna's voice. What Wu Yan didn't know is that his situation is very similar to that of those men and women who have feelings for each other waiting for the other party's call. They are waiting for the other party to contact them, but they don't dare to personally dial the number. Wu Yan scratched his face and looked at Asuna's name. He sighed for the umpteenth time and closed the interface. Let's keep looking, I've been looking for her for a while now. After giving himself an excuse to comfort himself, Wu Yan walked towards the teleport gate to look for his next target. Most towns and cities have a teleport gate. With this gate, players don't need to use teleport crystals to teleport between floors. Wu Yan may have a lot of money, but he's not so extravagant as to not use free stuff. When players use teleport crystals to teleport to other locations, they will be teleported to the teleport gate as well. This is a very convenient location for players. When he arrived at the teleport gates plaza, Wu Yan heard an unusually loud commotion. Wu Yan frowned and looked towards the source of the noise. He saw a player in his 20s or 30s standing there, grabbing onto the passers-by and begging for something. However, the passers-by ignored him and even cursed at him. Only a small number of players frowned with a troubled expression on their faces. Wu Yan was confused by the situation. At this time, a familiar figure entered his sight. Blinking his eyes, Wu Yan walked up to the guy and stood behind him. "What are you doing here?" Kirito, who was staring at the player begging for his life, turned around and saw Wu Yan there. He gasped when he saw Wu Yan. "It's you. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Wu Yan's mouth twitched. "Are you surprised to see me here?" Kirito finally came to his senses and scratched his head in embarrassment. "Well, a little. The two have only met twice. The first time was when they were clearing the first floor's boss. The second time was during the Christmas event in the Forest of Lost." Of course, Kirito was surprised to see Wu Yan here. After all, the person in front of him is a famous person. "Oh right." Wu Yan pointed towards the player. "What's going on?" Kirito's expression darkened and he bitterly smiled. That person is the guild master of a small guild called Silver Flag. Not long ago, other than him, all the other members of his guild were annihilated by the Orange Guild. Titan's Hand, Orange Guild. Wu Yan nodded. The kind of guild that specializes in robbing players and killing their prey? Ah. Kirito nodded and looked at the player. He wants someone to avenge him, but he doesn't want to kill them. He wants them to go to jail. What a nice guy. Wu Yan sighed. So, do you want to go? Kirito smiled and looked at Wu Yan. Do you want to go too? Wu Yan pondered for a moment. He rolled his eyes and a sly smile appeared on his face. Hey Kirito. Wu Yan smiled at Kirito. How about a bet? A bet. That's right. Let's see who can send the members of Titan's Hand to jail first. Wu Yan had a strange smile on his face. Whoever wins will have to agree to one condition within their power. How about it? Kirito paused for a moment and smiled. Sounds interesting. Oh? Okay. I agree. Chapter 659. Aincrad's 35th floor, Forest of Wandering. Unlike the previous snowy Forest of Wandering, although the environment in the Forest of Wandering wasn't the best, it still felt like a woodland at night. The surrounding trees were green and full of vitality. Apart from the monsters in the forest, it was a good choice for people to have a picnic in the Forest of Wandering. Unfortunately, in a corner, a few people were arguing, destroying the tranquil and serene atmosphere. What are you talking about? A group of 5 was gathered together. There were 2 female players and 3 male players. The 3 male players were standing on one side, looking a little lost. The 2 female players were standing opposite each other. It seemed that the 2 players were the ones who were in a dispute. The tall female player with curly red hair and a slightly seductive appearance is looking at the item in front of her. Since you have that lizard to heal you, you don't need a recovery crystal, right? The one standing in front of the tall female player is a short, cute girl. Her yellow hair is tied into 2 ponytails with a red hairband. There's also a lizard dragon on her head. In terms of appearance, she's comparable to some of the top girls in SAO. Most importantly, she's cute. However, this girl is very cute. His red pupils were filled with indignation. You're the one. You're not going to the front lines, why would you need a recovery crystal? Of course. The tall female player's voice was filled with provocation. I'm not like Silica who has a man to heal you. The petite girl named Silica raised her head and looked at the person in front of her. Her expression didn't change much. However, the anger in his eyes was clearly displayed. The 3 male players on the side seemed to be frightened by the quarrel between the 2. One of them quickly stood up and said to the tall female player, Miss Rosalia, Silica, you too? I got it. Silica interrupted the other party and put away the personal interface in front of her. She then turned to the tall female player named Rosalia. I don't need any items, but I won't team up with you anymore. Silica said. Silica said to Rosalia as if she was taking revenge, there are many teams that want me. I can still survive without you. Silica ignored the 4 players who were her teammates just a second ago and turned around. Along with the little dragon-shaped pet on his head, she walked towards the outskirts of the forest. Silica didn't notice the strange glint in Rosalia's eyes when she turned to leave. She licked her lips and smirked wickedly. She looked at Silica as if she was looking at a boss that could be easily taken care of. Silica didn't know what she's going to face when she left in a fit of pique. What is it? Originally, the sky was already close to dusk. While the 2 of them were arguing, the curtain of night quietly fell. By the time Shili realized that she was walking alone in the Forest of Wandering, which was filled with monsters, the sky had already turned completely dark. In the forest, some of the monsters that only appeared at night let out roars. Mixed with the forest's unique chill, Shili couldn't help but feel a little scared. She grabbed the dragon pet and quickened her pace. She walked towards the exit of the Forest of Wandering. She had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, if she encountered monsters later. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, a few heavy footsteps came from the trees beside her. Startled, Silica hurriedly tried to change direction, but the owner of the footsteps appeared in front of her. A gorilla holding a wooden mallet in one hand and a wine flask in the other walked out from behind the trees. It was about 2 meters tall and brimmed with power. Its red eyes were fixed on Silica. The hostility in its eyes made Silica involuntarily take 2 steps back. Shili bit her lip, turned around and ran in another direction, but she soon retreated because there was another gorilla there. Silica suddenly realized that there was a gorilla in front of her, to her left and to her right. She had no choice but to retreat. Behind her was a giant tree that blocked her way. Chirp, chirp. The dragon pet on Silica's head immediately flew up and growled at the three gorillas. Seemed like it wanted to protect its master. It was not like a pet in the game at all. Instead, it was quite intelligent. The dragon's growl woke Silica up. Shili took a deep breath and pulled out the short sword at her waist. She bent her body and looked at the three gorillas as they approached. Her red eyes constantly scanned the three gorillas, trying to find a way to get away from them. One of the gorillas seemed to have lost its patience. It opened its mouth and let out a roar. It took a step forward and rushed towards Silica. It smashed the wooden mallet in its hand. It did not show any mercy even though its opponent was a cute little girl. Silica's expression changed. She jumped forward and dodged the attack from the gorilla's side. Almost at the same time, the mallet smashed into the ground, creating a cloud of dust and even a slight vibration. Silica did not doubt that if she was hit by this attack, she would lose at least 1/3 of her HP. In other words, she could only survive 3 hits at most. Bang! While observing the situation, Silica was caught off guard. She was hit directly by a gorilla. Her petite body was lifted into the air, but she was immediately sent flying by a mallet. Bang! Shili fell to the ground, and her HP bar immediately dropped below the yellow level. This time Silica really panicked. She turned around and stood up, but what greeted her was a mallet in front of her. Boom! The mallet fell on the ground and Shili managed to dodge it in time. The other 2 gorillas immediately rushed forward and swung their mallets at her. Shili could only crouch down to avoid one of the mallets, then she jumped up and retreated quickly, falling behind them. Silica looked up at the 3 gorillas in front of her. She was already panting. Her hand gripped the short sword so tightly that it hurt, but she did not feel anything. Her heart was filled with anxiety. If she did not leave now. Chirp. The little dragon drew an arc in the air and arrived at Shili's side. It spat out a mouthful of rainbow-colored light that enveloped Shili. In the blink of an eye, Shili's HP recovered by 1/3. Seeing this, Silica reached into the bag behind her waist. After fumbling around for a while, she was shocked. She no longer had any recovery items. Roar! While Silica was still in shock, a gorilla suddenly came in front of her and smashed her with a mallet. This time Silica's HP was completely red. Silica, who was lying on the ground, could not help but be horrified. She looked at the gorilla that was gradually approaching her. She kept moving backward. After a while, the gorilla was in front of her. Looking at the horrified Silica on the ground, the gorilla did not hesitate and swung the mallet in its hand. If this attack hit, Silica's HP would definitely be emptied. Bang! At the critical moment, the little dragon flew in front of Silica and blocked the attack. It was smashed to the ground by the mallet. Its body bounced a few times and its HP slowly dropped to the bottom. Pina! Silica was stunned. She could not believe that her beloved pet who blocked the attack for her had its HP reduced to the bottom. She could not react for a long time. At this time, the 3 gorillas with mallets in their hands were already closing in on her. Wonderful brush pavilion, no pop-up window. Quick update, remember.